Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hypertension. I am your stream manager and the man behind the camera today. I will be your host for the desk here. On this desk, I have two very special guests. I am here joined by Tame and Mojo Man. How are you gentlemen doing this evening?
Excellent. I'm excited to get back into some Champions League action. We had a long downtime after the play-ins and off season. I'm ready to go.
Doing great today. I'm happy to be on the analyst desk for the first time, especially for a high honor as Champions League. And I just like to see how everything goes today.
Yeah, and before we really get into anything too intensive into the game, why don't we talk a little bit about this league? So far, the strongest Champions League team of Champions League split we've ever had.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think D-Rose just gets to run a train this time. They're going to have to actually, put up, and we have great talent all around the two teams playing tonight. Both very talented, clawed their way out of groups. One of them very dominant. So looking forward to see this performance.
Oh yeah, especially since it seems to be sort of a revenge match between the first two teams here. I would like to see how Crows of Judgment gets to claw their way back in after what happened to them when they faced Orion the last time.
Yeah, I would very much like to see that myself. Given that last time there was especially issues, from what I heard, in the top lane, Dinka did not have his best performance, and Anchor really left a lot to be desired as well. So they will be looking for those rebound performances today. But for the side of Karaoke Machine Broke, or the team formerly known as Karaoke Machine Broke, that is, the Crows of Judgment, you have to think that this is a situation where you won last time, you came out of groups undefeated, there's a lot of eyes on you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, as I've been casting Champs League for a while now, for me, my eyes are on Doxa there in the mid lane. Last time they played, Doxa went 9-0-7. Ridiculous gold per minute, ridiculous damage per minute, complete map dominance. I want to see if he can keep that performance, or if they're just going to target ban him. It's going to be a really interesting first game here for sure.
It will be an interesting first game indeed, as it will end up. I think this game could end up either really good, or it will just end up being an absolute stomp. I don't think there's really any in between.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times game ones are like that. It's sort of the teams feeling each other out. That's one of the things that makes Risen Esports cool, is that we do a best of 3 format. So, you can actually lose a game and not just have your whole week ruined, which I actually really appreciate.
Yeah, that is definitely good. Mojo Man, what do you think about these players and the way that these teams are now built up to be?
I would really like to see what happens via each player performance. I would like to see Dinka redeem himself, same with Anchor especially. But I also want to see if they're going to give, since the last time they played, picks and bans will be different, because Orion did get that dominant bot lane within Zaya Rakan. I don't know if they want to give it to them again, if they're more comfortable on it, however. But I do want to see, just gameplay-wise and team and player-wise, I want to see some improvements, and hopefully they've really stepped up their game lately.
We can only hope so, because as we did say last time, it was a Karaoke Machine Broke. Now Crows of Judgment Stomp. So from there, it's really... there's nowhere to go but up if you're Orion. They got into groups on a technicality, so from there, it's from there, I said they got out of it on a technicality, so it's from that you really have nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I just want to see Orion.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Okay, if you're starting with the shitty puns, you can get out. But
Anyway,
yeah.
sir.
Sorry. But overall, yeah, I would like to see week ones always. You get to see the highs, and hopefully you get to see them at their lows. But the only way that you can go is up with after week one. You can also see how players are and how your team is forming and all that other stuff. But either way, week one would be fun. A very good scouting week as well, with Orion being that pub stomp of a team with the last match. Just a good scout match, and also a good comfort. I don't want to say comfort, but it's I'm trying to find the word. Molding match after this would be the correct word, I would say.
Yes, and as we are The players are appearing to be ready, so we are going to see if we can throw it over to our caster's desk, where we have returned and Desterix ready to go, guys. I've been Hypertension here with Mojo Man and Tame, and let's throw it over to that caster's desk.
Shit, you scared me. Welcome to the casting desk for week 1 of Champions League. I'm your caster of the Ding Desterux, and my co-caster returned. We are all set for some high-stakes action between Karaoke Machine Broke and Orion. So, how are you feeling today, Return, as we get into this match?
You know what? I am excited. The play-ins, they were a lot of fun, but now we are getting into the top tier of action. Only 10 teams made it to that group stage, and looks like we're about to get ready, launched, and going straight on in a draft for game number 1 of the Champions League.
Yeah. And this one, as our analysts have pointed out, has some pretty high stakes behind it. This is the first season of Champions League with a buy-in, and we already have some pre-established blood between these two teams, as Karaoke Machine Broke has defeated Orion in the play-ins.
Exactly, and a huge part of that has to come down to, the analyst made a good point here, Dinka and Anchor during that match on the 2v2 versus 056 and Jim Cantor were a combined 1 in 11. There was just not enough up there that the rest of the team for Orion, they just couldn't find anything to really carry through, and you had huge carry threats in the mid lane with Doxa absolutely demolishing on LeBlanc. 2013 in its afternoon got the Zion Rakan combo, and they just weren't accounted for at all. So I really do want to see, now that we are in that best of 3 format, does Orion actually bring something back here, use that macro game, use that master tier draft to their advantage?
Yeah, and that's a huge thing to criticize about best of ones. You know, you can't really display everything you have, because a huge part of it is that adaptation, being able to move from game to game, feel out what that team had and be able to adapt to it and do what you'd refer to as a reverse sweep, if you will. But we are getting the draft right away, as Anivia and Morgana taken off the map right out the bat.
We actually have to look. Oh yeah, we're over on this draft. Forgot about that. But the Anivia has been something that's been climbing back up in popularity as of late, just with this ability to counter out a lot of the more engaged style mid laners. And by the time you're level 6, you have basically one of the best clearing games in the match. So curious to see what actually does continue to go on over here.
Yeah, Camille going to be taken off the map as well. Nothing too quick for both of these teams, as they're really, you can tell there's a lot of focus when it comes to this draft. They're not just throwing these out left and right.
Exactly. We are on the 8.9 patch for a little bit of housekeeping. Anyone that's been watching professional play as of late knows all of the changes going around, especially Soraka popping up as like the counter tank support in the bottom lane. Gangplank still very relevant in the top lane as well. And then looking over in the mid lane, you just have all these new picks coming out. A lot of assassins like Doxa going back to basically old school LeBlanc, Talon even popping up here. So there's so many areas that either of these teams could really look to break open this match with. However, Kaisa and Swain, still probably the 2 top dogs of the meta right now, haven't been banned out yet.
Have not been banned. It does appear they're going more for a focus on the comfort picks of the opposing sides. Wouldn't be too surprised to see a Twisted Fate ban come out, but not choosing to go for it. We are going to get the burst pick coming out soon as Trundle gets removed.
And no Trundle does slightly take away from the possibility of that Trundle plus Yasuo combo we've been seeing so much over in MSI. Basically, with the free knockup coming off the Trundle pillar, followed by the ultimate from Yasuo, it just makes for an absolute bloodbath in the mid lane. But that could be the double tier Ezreal as the first pick for the Crows, and honestly, that's a little bit safe going for your first pick.
It's very safe, but it's also very effective. That Ezreal, in its current state, is extremely strong. All things considered, it's safe. It does a lot of damage. It's not a bad first pick take.
No, certainly not, and especially if you are comfortable on that in your bottom lane, you always want to get comfort. We're not in the LCS right now. We're not at MSI. We're here where it's individual champion picks that really do win out these games. And I mean, with the Morgana already banned away, and even the Rakan, so no Xayah Rakan combos, no Kayla Morgana, there's not too many things that can keep an Ezreal perma shoved in, but that does look like we will be waiting just a little bit longer, as Sejuani keeping her face in there behind there's an esports logo. We'll be getting locked in for Orion.
Ooh, and that's a Sejuani pick. It's always a very flexible one to take. There's definitely not much risk when it comes to taking Sejuani, and Karma being taken as well. That's actually a very interesting one to see come up.
Yeah, for sure. We will have to keep our eyes in on that one. As I do now realize there is a spectator delay, as I've actually been spectating this one a few seconds behind on the stream, but catching back up. The Sejuani is not something we see too much of as of late. The thing is, if you get a champion with a great first clear like the Nidalee or the Graves, you can very easily exploit the Sejuani's early clear, put off her ganking pass, but we might not be at the point where Orion really are going to be able to prepare for that coming out from the Ravens as well. The Crows, rather. Crows. Why are they named BOJ?
Crows, I'm not sure. We'll make sense of it eventually, but yeah, the one thing I do want to focus on for a quick second is the Karma. That could either be... It's one of the most flexible picks, but at the moment, it's probably not the strongest of picks, especially taking it this early. You're mostly taking it for the fact that it can flex to almost any lane.
That's definitely a good point. At this point in time, I have to guess it's going down to the bottom lane. With the Morgana already taken off the board, that does take away a lot of your shoving lanes in the bottom lane, especially now that it's Ezreal Taric. They can get shoved in so incredibly easily and so incredibly hard, and Orion, they need some sort of winning lane around the map. They pick up the Caitlyn, and there it is. There is going to be no bottom lane for Ezreal and Taric. The Crows, they're going to have to find something else around this map now.
Yeah, Caitlyn, very aggressive, especially when you take a melee support. You have a hard time getting onto that Caitlyn. The range denies so much in terms of forward aggression, but it is an Ezreal pick, and that is something that's kind of expected. They are going to play something where they're looking to just protect the Ezreal, let them scale up, get that double tier build going. You're not going to look to fight anytime soon against this Orion bot lane.
Yeah, but now here's the thing. Orion also get the counter pick on mid lane. The only thing remaining here as a question mark for the Crows is this top lane in Orion. The best thing here is they can pick their top laner, their mid laner rather, right now in response to Cassiopeia and still have the counter pick on top lane. Crows, they need to find some very aggressive plays here with their jungle top duo because mid lane, sure, Cassiopeia can clear early. She can take some fights. Bottom lane, don't do anything until... probably about that 2-item spike coming out of Ezreal. They need to find out some sort of early game in. Oh, Orion, if they go with that Jace, that was absolutely terrifying for the early game.
Teasing it out there, teasing it out, but they do go with the Gnar. On the offhand, though, yeah, they can take the counter pick. In fact, they probably are going to go for the counter pick as we do get a hover on the Ornn. Still looking at the Karma. I'm very, very thrown off by the fact that they've chose to pick it this early, especially against a Cassiopeia matchup. But Ornn getting hovered, and that's going to be locked in. And one of those champions that can be very hit or miss, but once you get going, good God, does that Call of the Forge God really disrupt team fights?
Yeah, Ornn is so incredibly powerful in the meta, not only because he has a fairly good laning phase with the Bellows Breaths, not only giving you percent HP damage, but also giving you that extra shield to trade into the laning phase. And that is a head scratcher if that gets locked in, but this actually could be exactly what the Crows needed. All right, going back to Ornn for a second. He's great in the early game, and then he turns into a great tank in the late game. Not quite going to be able to keep up with Gnar on the split push game, but Ivern, we were saying how Sejuani is someone you can shut down very easily with great jungling when you have a fast clear. There is nobody in the game of League of Legends who has a faster clear than Ivern. He just looks at the camp and it's gone.
Yeah, that is definitely a counter pick response. I can't imagine why Ivern would be picked out of just this exact situation. It's a very smart pick to take, but it's also very risky because the response that Orion has to any counter jungling is actually pretty massive, both having the Gnar, having the Azir, and having the mobility that the Karma provides to the Caitlyn as well as herself. They can go ahead and isolate this Ivern in enemy territory.
Yeah, but here's the thing. With that last pick of Azir, sure, it sets up Orion for a much nicer later game stage, having the Caitlyn Karma as your ADC support duo, Azir as your main damage source in the mid lane to his late stages of the game, and then Gnar as a split pusher in the top lane. Yeah, Orion are probably one of the best late games you can actually put together, but with an Azir in the mid against Cassiopeia, you aren't guaranteed that shoving advantage. A big thing with Azir is that his early game has been nerfed fairly significantly. He's still the god of late game damage, but he's not going to have that consistently shoving out lane in. If you don't have a shoving out mid lane, it does become a little bit hit or miss whether or not you can actually respond to the invades from Ivern. So picking that late game mid laner, sure, it leaves the door open for the late game for Orion, but the door is still open for Ivern just to completely run over this jungle.
Yeah, and I feel like this is what this entire game comes down to. What stage of the game are you going to dominate at? If we do get to the late game, Orion's going to have a very, very potent late game where they can just stomp through the Crows. But the Crows have this mid-game spike that is undeniably a threat to Orion.
And even going on further, you have to think about this in the context of that last match. The biggest thing for me is the Azir picked into Cassiopeia. Not only that, because the Miasma still really good at locking down Azir for extended periods of time, but this isn't just a Cassiopeia. This is Doxa. He was absolutely massive last game round, and sure, we're on the Cassiopeia, not quite as assassiny as the LeBlanc, but with solid play in the lane, you can shut out this Azir for a long time coming.
Honestly, I could say it's even a bigger threat than LeBlanc, depending on whose hands it's in. And putting it in the hands of Doxa, that type of ruthless aggression is, oh god, it's so good on Cassiopeia. Once you stick to them, it's hard to get a Cassiopeia off of you.
Mhm.
And as you were saying, that Miasma, it's going to be a very, very difficult time for Shang-Di.
Yeah, now, when you're really looking at how do each of these teams really start to run away with this game, Orion need to find not only the early game fights with the Karma plus Caitlyn, having a very solid advantage in the early game, but it looks like up for either a late game team fight situation with Sejuani Gnar in the front line, Azir plus Caitlyn just wailing away at the end of a fight, but they could also look for Gnar on the split push game, but that still is very risky because I mean, there's only so many times you can say this, but Dink and Anchor haven't proven themselves in this league just yet. Now is the game where they really need to show that they belong here.
Yeah, they need to show that they belong here. They need to show that they can adjust to a loss, even though it's not quite 100% the same teams that fought each other, as there are some subs here or there. There's a lot given away, especially in terms of main players being here, in terms of Dinka and Anchor being able to learn from their mistakes, in terms of learning from how Doxa played and being able to adjust to his aggression.
Yeah, and before we actually get into discussion of our final few thoughts here, before we go into the game, before we get into our spectator delay, before we get into really the win conditions, these are going to be the win conditions brought to you by Hammer and Kingsland. Thank you guys very much for donating. But with those shoutouts out of the way, looking at either team, and we've talked a lot now about Orion's win condition, but of course, we can't stay away from the Ivern that long. That is just too tantalizing of a pick to not hit on.
Ooh, it really is. I mean, there's just it's a really finicky thing though, because if you play it well, if you're a macro god, you can absolutely dominate the living daylights out of that other team. But playing it poorly, it's something that can crumble quite easily.
Exactly, and with Ivern, whenever an Ivern's picked in the game, it's almost like giving each team an exam. How well can you play the early game? How good is your early game planning? And of course, you do always give the advantage to the team with the Ivern because they had the foresight to think of it. They had the foresight to actually pick it, which means they had the time to go through and plan what they want to do with this. Because there's always those really interesting early games, because Ivern can go and 3-buff somebody. If he gets it wrong, he needs to be caught out at one of the enemy camps. Because right now, if Jim just mimics Anchor throughout the jungle, doesn't actually go for any invades, this is honestly a failed pick. If he does not shut down Anchor, he's losing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's putting all your eggs in one basket, really.
Mm-hmm.
It does show some flexibility, though, because depending on how you play it, it provides a lot of siege potential. And given the new changes to Rift Herald, that is something that is ever so desirable. You bring Rift Herald, you bring Daisy, you bring Ivern, and probably ganking Ornn's lane, if anything. That's hard for a Gnar to have to deal with. You have to get to the eye of Rift Herald to really stop him. And the damage Rift Herald puts out now is absolutely devastating if you leave him unchecked.
Yeah, but the big thing is with all these neutral objectives, now that we are on 8.9, they actually do less damage, but have a lot more HP, especially towards that Baron buff. So a team that does have either the Cassiopeia or the Zir, you can go and look for one of those early Barons, but it is now so much harder to actually put in the ground and grab that buff. But, I mean, we talked about now how Orion really has, like, the late game on lock. Caitlyn plus Azir plus a Karma to give them both attack speed. Like, Arden Center is going to be worth so much this game. If she doesn't pick it, it's literally trolling. But They have probably like the best late game you can have in a comp, save maybe swapping out the Caitlyn for like a Jinx. That'd probably take the cake in terms of just better late game. But the mid game right now for the rest of the Crows, I mean, you have Cassiopeia plus Ezreal. I mean, sure, Cassiopeia's skills developed very well for the later game, but Ezreal, double tier item, he's ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And the damage an Ezreal can put out if left unchecked and left to just farm to all his needs, letting those little mystic shots slip by, thread the needle, land them on the right target, especially on this composition drafted by Orion. They do have quite a lot of squishies that those mystic shots can land onto. So when it comes to siege potential, there is a lot. I was saying it earlier when we had the whole Ornn and Ivern talk, but overall, around the map, it's going to be very difficult to actually defend towers if you let the Crows set up in a situation where they can actually siege one down.
Yeah, and as we do get into our loading screen here, just about to get into the match, let's bring you guys around the Rift and tell you guys what matches are actually happening for our first round here. It does look like, as you are seeing on screen, Karaoke Machine Broken, or otherwise now known as the Crows, going up again. Wait, this is actually completely wrong. Ignore me, either way. We'll be getting into game. I do have to apologize to everyone in the chat who has watched MSI. No, unfortunately, this is not a teleport Ezreal bot lane. Has gone with the heal. Breaks my heart too. Maybe not ready for that level of macro just yet. Gotta get with Ivern first. Then you're ready to like 40 chest the heck out of the game.
Oh lord, the teleport Ezreal. Oh, how glorious would it have been to see.
This would have been my new favorite team. Like, sure, I'm a fan of the Ivern. It shows a lot of confidence pulling this pick out of there this early on. But like, first game of the Champions League, let's play Ivern on 8.9. It's not something you see too often, but certainly some things you go a little bit further. You do get loaded onto the game. Nothing too crazy so far. Coming out for either side as far as the runes go. Yeah, no, everything's basically exactly what you'd expect. You have Phase Rush over on Dox in the mid lane. Shang has gone for Ares just for the extra poke. Sometimes you do see the Arcane Comet, but he's going for a little bit more consistent lower damage rather than the high burst damage poke spikes, which honestly I would have rather gone with for the early game, as any elongated trade versus the Cassiopeia, you basically already lost.
Ooh, we already see something interesting coming out. A little bit of an invade coming in. It does look like they're gonna loop around. This is going to be very interesting. They're coming from the flank right now. They don't know they're there, but the Crows might take a huge advantage if Ryan walks the wrong way and the binding does live. The tension resolved.
Honestly, that could have been a very good play coming out from the Crows if they had just stayed on that red buff. So normally what happens with an Ivern is you mark one of your buffs, you go across the river, take the enemy buff, and you just play from there, and usually it's like a trade, one side for one side. But I mean, if you start in the enemy's jungle and they're not expecting it, you could theoretically go for the 3 buff. But either way, everything's basically going to be locked down. Everyone sees where everyone is. Knowing that nobody's on the top side does mean Anchor and Jim Cantor going to be on the bot side, and I'd be very hard-pressed to see Anchor not immediately go up to that red buff, secure it, make sure it doesn't get 3 buffed, and just play out from there.
Yeah, but there's a ping onto that red buff from Orion. Might be looking to try and do something counter jungle-esque. They have to expect the Ivern coming. There's no other way about it.
I mean, that literally, if you look at like the design document for Ivern, it is just screw with the enemy team's jungle, like, end of statement. That is what he's there for. Sure, he's great, able to pick up the redemption pretty early on in the game. He is the best support you could look for out of the jungle, but in the early game, he is an absolute nuisance.
Yeah, but they're actually not choosing to go through with it. You see Anchor's going to be able to pick up his own red buff, probably a little bit tense after that invade, getting spotted out and not really getting anything for it.
Yeah, a very safe start of the game so far to Jim Cantor. And this doesn't necessarily mean he's losing. Sure, we said that he has to go around and find some way to really screw with Anchor's jungling, but that doesn't have to be off the level 1. He can look for that second spawning of the buffs coming up if Anchor goes for the early ganks, but no, it is Cantor that comes down here. Flash!
And there we go with the arcade shift going forward. They're looking to get on the Dick Boy. Dick Boy is ignited. Haven't used the heal. Gets under the tower just in time. A lot of damage going on the Meowcat, blocking those Mystic shots for Dick Boy. And a very close exchange forces the flash and heal out of Dick Boy.
Yeah, Meowing Cat did not block that last Mystic Arcane shot. That was a dead Caitlyn. First blood going over immediately. However, only summoner blown there. Coming out from the side of the Crows was the Ignite from Afternoon. And currently, Dig Boy, he's completely out of summoner spells, so you could see a camping of this bottom lane very easily.
Yeah, fairly easily indeed. And one of the things we talked about was we wouldn't see this Ezreal and Taric go too hard early, but we didn't really think about the jungler coming, and we didn't think about Jim rushing down there and really setting up these initiations. The arcane shift plus the stun came out so beautifully. It was a double tap. And that's what really made that happen.
Yeah, there's very few ways you ever beat out the Karma versus Caitlyn lane early. I mean, you have so much pushing potential, but now with that early gank, 7 CS advantage for the bottom lanes for Crochet. Essentially a little bit more going to be picked up here under that tower, but Dig Boy now with no flash always has to keep the where is Ivern question in the back of his mind, and that's not going to be the best for Ivern going around trying to counter jungle, but it's still great to basically take one of the enemy's basically guaranteed lanes and just take it out of the game entirely.
Yeah, it's quite clever, especially considering how potent Caitlyn Karma is. And now the question is, where do you go from here taking this Ivern pick? How do you still keep its effectiveness even after the bot lane of Orion gets pushed in?
So the Ivern pick is great because it can really adapt to what does the enemy jungler want to do. If it's against a farming jungler like the Yi, Shyvana, answer's easy, you just go in, take their farm, but mid lane gank,
Yeah,
Doxa,
getting caught out, is going to eat the stun, run critically low, flashes forward, and uses the heal. Doxa going to be able to survive, but once again, double summoner spells used.
it's very awkward to see Doxa taking the heal in this matchup, but he's going in!
He got rooted. Weaves getting critically low. One more auto could finish him off, having to use the heal. They're going to turn it around onto Meowing Cat. Flash forward from Afternoon, and that's first blood picked up on the side of the Crows. And it might be a second blood as Weaves comes forward with the arcade shift.
That is one way to shut down the Caitlyn and Karma lane. Unfortunately, as a bottom lane, if you go that far down, if you lose the key summoner spells, you just have to concede the lane. Go for the back, grab some more items, come back when you're ready to win this lane again. But disrespect coming out from Dig Boy Meowing Cat, especially at the back end of that fight where Meowing Cat elects to go aggressive on the play. He thinks he can turn it around, ends up putting themselves even deeper in that hole. And now, I mean, I was being pretty light when I was saying, yeah, sure, the Caitlyn Karma lane really shut down for this early game, but now they are very much in a hole.
Speeding in a hole, Dinka's in one, and he manages to brute force his way out.
That was perfect timing. If he was not Meganar, he was dead on that play, and maybe a little bit of missed timing there from Jin Cantor, not waiting for the Nard to go away.
Oh, goodness. That was, yeah, beautiful timing to come out. Dinka playing that quite well. Not looking to repeat what happened in the first exchange between these two teams. So far, Crows are in the lead with the 2-0 coming from that bot lane. And I just want to go back to that bot lane for a little bit more because...
I can't blame you.
Yeah, it's quite astounding to actually think that Caitlyn Karma lane, all it took is that one gank from Jim. Just that one gank, and that's what enabled that bot lane to be able to be as potent as it is because it burned the double summoners. And knowing those double summoners were down, it's a real tragedy that Meowing Cat still went forward on it.
Yeah, League of Legends is a game all about adapting. Sure, you have a game plan coming in, you have the thought of, oh, our Caitlyn Karma lane should literally never be down in farm, should never be down in pressure. But a good player follows through on that plan, a great player is able to adapt, and part of that is just accepting when you are at a disadvantage. And unfortunately, Dig Boy Meowing Cat bit off a little bit more than they can chew. That being said, though, the scaling game is still in their favor, though the Ezreal mid game is going to come even sooner. But here comes Anchor.
Yeah, and there's no flash in the Afternoon, so he's going to have a hard time getting away from this, but he tries to turn it around on Meowing Cat. Out goes the Trigger Shot Barrage. Not going to finish him off. Hey, my goodness, Afternoon still alive. Finally drops Weaves is gonna try and get something for it, but it's not paying off. And now Weaves set to fall next. Will he pick up one before dropping the answers? No, as Anchor takes down Weaves.
And that's the volleyball game of, you guys think you can throw? Hold my beer and watch this. And it's impressive whenever the 2v3 does occur and you're able to hang on for long enough, but you could almost feel how tilted Weaves was that he didn't get the kill onto Meowing Cat. 056, taking a little bit of a beating, but he got the taste of the kill, and then he was just full bloodlust from that point forward. Couldn't give it up, and immediately drops 2 kills down as well, and that does somewhat equalize the pressure going down in this bottom lane, because now Weaves and Afternoon have no summoner spells to respond.
Yeah, no summoner spells, and the gold somewhat evens up. There's still a slight gold lead on the bot side of Crows, but overall, jungler influence is really impacting this game heavily, and Anchor, beautiful timing, able to catch out Afternoon after he already burnt that flash, enabling a different gank.
Yeah, and Anchor's game plan at this point is just keep these ganks going. Sure, he does scale into a very nice tank in the late game, but now, especially that he's 6, the engage you get with that ultimate, unstoppable, especially in that mid lane, and this is why I'm really confused about Doxa's summoner spell choice here. Because basically whenever there's a Sejuani on the enemy team, you always see mid laners taking this cleanse. You see Shang doing that just against the Ivern plus Cassiopeia combination, but Doxa now needs to be so incredibly careful. If he gets ganked one more time, he's not going to be able to get out of this one.
Yeah, and we were seeing early that he's struggling against Shang-Di. Shang-Di putting on a lot of pressure, a lot of that zone control that Azir does offer, and really pressing that advantage, making Doxa have a very difficult time, not to mention the ganks that have come out from Anchor, just to really put that tension on him.
Yeah, and even further with that, Shang, the Azir pick is so good in the early game because of its long range. You can easily throw out the WQ combination, grab the soldiers, throw them forward, and find that extra little bit of poke in the early game, and all while being out of range of anything Cassiopeia can do in response. You basically need the jungler to come on over there and enable Dox to actually start one of these fights. That is the Karma Caitlyn lane we all expect.
Yeah, that is what we're expecting from the start. Not that double kill, but that ruthless
Indeed.
aggression. And speaking of ruthless aggression, we got fights breaking up between mid laners, between the junglers, between everything. Anchor's trying to run as fast as he can. Not going to happen. James Couture is going to pick up that one. And now a little bit of a stalemate
Jumped
going
over
on
the
after that.
dragon wall. He was sold on that invade. He wanted it so hard, but didn't realize mid laner just wasn't there to help him.
Oh, and Meowing Cat getting caught up. The binding goes out, able to lock up Jim and stop the advancement.
Nope, Daisy. Gonna get a few more shots in, but eventually taking on the Trebuch, giving over that little bit of gold. And actually a great way there on the invade for Doxa to hold his ground, because if he wasn't pushed up in the mid lane, Shang easily could have rotated over to Anchor, but bot lane dive, here's the Taric.
Yeah, and there comes Jim, able to pick up a kill. That Cosmic Radiance, one of the best enablers of tower dives.
I mean, it usually does help when you're able to not take damage for a solid 2.5 seconds. Always helps out so much, and more disrespect. Meowing Cat doesn't think they can dive. Afternoon was very happy to prove him wrong.
Yeah, and that's with double summoners up as well. Not using the flash to get away. Questionable moves here. I mean, there was a chance to outrun that one, especially considering Dim's Ivern doesn't have that much chasing potential once you miss the binding.
And you see Anchor down here just trying to hold on to that bot lane tower. Honestly, it's only going to take about one wave, but he's not going anywhere just yet.
Not just yet. They are going to have to pay special attention, because once that tower goes down, that's a huge spike for that Ezreal pick. But we do have a fight breaking out to Anchor. Meanwhile, in the top lane, actually got to turn that around, because the Gnar ultimate able to keep him away forward. Now the stun goes out, and this looks bad for Anchor. A beautiful use of the miasma right there.
Yeah, this is just a dominant macro game coming out from the Crows. Doxa, sure, he's not having the best early game of his life, but it's still good enough. He's got that team sense where he doesn't need to win the laning phase. He'll just win the map, baby.
Yeah, and that's the type of playstyle that comes to the Doxa. But meanwhile, Jim going after Decoy, unable to land the stun. They are going to back off this one.
Yeah, unfortunately, there wasn't quite the best coordination in the world between Afternoon and Jim on the engage. Can't blame him too hard. Afternoon, of course, is actually a substitute coming into him. He's not a regular member of Carrick Machine Broken. or otherwise now known as the Crows of Justice. So maybe a little bit of synergy issues there, but still a great early game nonetheless. But I do have to say, we were talking about a lot here. We're talking about some item spikes. I think the most important item spike we have to hit on is that Magi Soul Stealer. Jim, he's ready. He wants them stacks.
And yeah, he's going to get him. Ivern's overall safe, great at disengaging, great at engaging. So there's not much you can do to stop him once he gets going. Once the Ivern snowball happens, just prepare your lane, prepare your jungle. He's coming after you.
Exactly, but look at this great warding coming out from Anchor right now. They know that so much of this pressure has been pushed down to the bottom side. 056 and Dinka have honestly just been on an island up here. No one's paid any attention for the majority of this match. But now with all this vision coming up from Anchor, knowing that Jim Cantor was on the bottom side, means that maybe a little bit more tracking, giving a little bit more information to Dig Boy, Meowing Cat in the bottom lane. And hopefully even allowing Shang to play a little bit more aggressive up towards the top side, as well as he still hasn't had a bad laning phase. He's got the advantage, but now the question is, how does he actually convert on this early game? Azir is notoriously one of the hardest mid laners to play in. You don't see him very much outside of like the top echelons of competition, and even in the LCS, only if you're a die-hard Azir player do you actually take this pick. I mean, Faker even was benched for a good majority of one of his seasons because he was not an Azir player. Well, shared time, but even so, Faker, greatest player in the world, not allowed to play Azir until he plays like hundreds of games in one season of solo queue.
So the game's still continuing on, still relatively even, regardless of what the gold does tell you at the moment, what the kills do tell you at the moment, I should say. And so this is still anyone's game. This is not too far lost for Orion. Just barely only losing out by 1.4k is not going to kill you, but what they have to understand is it's still a late game scaling. They still got to be careful about where this gear is. You know, he knows when you've been laning, he knows when you try to gank, he knows where you are in your jungle, so ward it for goodness sake.
Exactly, wards. You guys on top side, and Anchor's actually making his way up towards the top side as well. You might see this swapped pressure, but who gets that first tower? First break still is not fallen just yet. 5-6 knows where they are. Anchor's going in alone.
Yeah, Anchor's going hard on the 5-6. 5-6 should be able to get away from this red buff, doing some extra damage, but overall this is not going to add up. And there it goes, split between three members, 283 gold. A pretty good pickup overall, and this is going to start that spike that Orion really want to avoid.
I mean, this is a bit of a head-scratcher play for me. If you're going to basically sacrifice the bottom tower to go for a top tower play, at least look for the kill, knowing that you're not going to be able to get that first tower advantage. Pick up something off the back end of that. But as we were saying before, it's a mid-game scaling team versus a late-game scaling team. Neither team are too keen just yet at pushing the advantage that far, and it's really going to start telling once the Crows actually do hit the 2-item spike, the 3-item spike on the Weave. Cassiopeia starts getting ready to go. Do they actually break this game open? But they are already pushing really hard on this mid lane. They might have 5 members.
Yeah, and this is what we're talking about. Their siege potential, very, very potent, especially as those Mystic shots come out. It's going to be very hard to defend against this team, but they do get them off, but at the cost of half of that turret health.
Yeah, but still, how hard do they actually want to press? Sure, they do have the advantage just with the 5 members already being there, but once Caitlyn gets in on this play, it's still not looking so in favor for Crows that they can just walk in and take whatever they want, though. Maybe a little bit of sneaky play coming in from Jim is they're going to keep their bottom lane on the bot side of the map, so looking to farm more as opposed to looking for more towers, and that's really just showing you the scaling mentality of this team right now. But Fnatic Bush, maybe. Not sure how much those two carries do have in damage. It is a Taric plus an Ivern.
Yeah, not much damage going to come out there, but the thought was there. You know.
They showed him who's in control. They showed him what's for, but
they show the aggression.
It's a good gesture.
Not afraid to.
It's a good gesture, I guess, but like, you're not gonna quite kill the Sejuani just yet. Already completed the Cinderhulk. Definitely gonna be the main tank on this squad. But speaking of tanks, someone who we haven't seen too much of just yet from Orion is Dinka. Sure, still 0-0-0, has a seemingly positive scoreline so far. Hasn't died, I believe it was 5 times in the last matchup. but he also isn't on that item spike just yet. But once he does pick up not only the Black Cleaver as he's on right now, but also that Iceborne, the Frozen Mallet rather, he's going to be a very huge threat on the split push game.
So on that note, we are finally going to see the lane swap come out on the side of the Crows. You see how the response comes out from the bot lane of Orion. Are they going to choose to meet it, or are they going to choose to go for the bot tower?
They're on the Herald right now.
Instead, we're going to have a Herald fight. Jim running very, very low, able to flash out of the ultimate. Now Anchor's the one who's in the bad situation, but backup does come in form of Dig Boy and Meowing Cat. They're going to keep the pressure on. Two-shot brush goes and it lands flush, but it doesn't land with enough damage. Out comes Call of the Foregut. Dig Boy in deep trouble. He's all alone. Here comes backup with Shang-Chi. Cosmic Guardians goes out. It does absolutely nothing, but what a tense exchange between these two teams.
Yeah, the Crows, they were looking for a fight, but unfortunately 056, that in fact is a wall, and you cannot go over that with your dash. And that's actually a very aggressive Herald being picked up here, as it really does feel right now that the Crows are just one step ahead in this macro game. You're seeing very late responses to the rotation. And sure, yeah, you're looking for more farm. You don't quite want to match rotation just yet, but fighting off a little bit more than you can chew with the Herald, that's going to give the enemy team just that much more to work with. It's not gone yet, though. That thing is very tanky.
But Dig Boy's gone as he drops to Weaves, and now this is looking terrible for Orion as they're losing every single member they have, trying to run away, flash over the wall. They are going to survive for now. Dinka able to get the stun, but here's a stun of his own comes Afternoon, and down goes Dinka. Overall, a huge win coming up for the Crows as they continue the chase. Doxa going straight after Anchor, forcing the flash out. One more poison should do it as the fangs seep in. Now Shang-Di running for his life, going back to base with his tail between his legs, and here comes the Crows.
And Orion, I have no idea what they're doing. They don't have the macro advantage. You still had the duo of Weaves plus Afternoon on that top side of the map. On top of that, you are not scaled up yet. You are a 1-item Caitlyn and a 1.5 item Azir. You are not ready to take these fights. Dinka's not even ready to split push, and when you disrespect the enemy power that much in the early game, you give so much back over, as you are now up to a 33 to 28, about that 5k gold lead going in favor for the Crows. And this is a gold lead you can take and you can run with. And on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, we are in mid-game spike territory. It's time to go.
Yeah, we're starting to see those crucial items come out. The Manamira, the Trinity Force on the side of Weaves. Meanwhile, just got the back from Doxa. He's picking up that Seraph's Embrace. This is the point where the Crows need to let loose and make it just rain hard onto Orion.
This is the perfect time. Shang doesn't have the power to fight just yet. Dinka doesn't have the 2 items really required for this hard split push. And you have everything you need for a fight. You have consistent damage from Doxa Weaves, a little bit of initiation coming out of the Ornn, and then the supporting power of the Iron plus Carrick. You physically cannot ask for a better setup. The only thing they're lacking right now is that vision game and potentially the side lane control. But if they can just pull the trigger, this is a snowball so far. They're looking to make this an avalanche.
Oh, and they have to keep up the pressure, though, because another thing that you cannot underestimate is the ability to turtle. Wait a second, Shang-Di, what is he doing there? Gonna fall to Doxa, one more Fang, and there he goes. Meanwhile, once again caught out Meowing Cat. What is going on from Orion? It seems like it's a communication breakdown.
Yeah, they just don't know how to play safe right now. Azir caught on the wrong side of the map. He ain't getting out of this one. And more shoving in here for the mid lane. There's just nothing that Dig Boy can do to actually stop this. They have to give up more.
Yeah, and really bad positioning. I mean, you put the bird by himself, Snake eats bird. It's nature right there, and they're just going after tower after tower. I was about to comment on the turtling presence that you have on the composition by Orion, but when you're so far caught out, so far forward, there's no chance to do that. Here we go, the ultimate coming out of Dinka. Call of the Forge God going out, knocks up 2. Anchor looking like he's in a bad spot, but who's in a worse spot? That's going to be Afternoon. Going forward is 5-6, trying to catch out whoever he can, trying to get those stuns forward. Not going to land. The bind doesn't go out. Meowing Cat looking to die again, but does get over the wall just in time. Dinka able to hop away, and now still in favor of this Crow team somehow. But here comes Doxa!
Oh,
looking
no.
to make it big. It's not Doxa, that's Shang-Di. Shang-Di tries to go for the big play, but it's not going to work out, and this inhibitor is going to be sacrificed. They picked up one, but they gave one away for free right after, as well as their inhibitor. They're going to look for the chase now, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen because the disengage this competition has is just way too powerful.
Yeah, unfortunately for Shang, the way you do a streamer shuffle, the ult doesn't do that much. Sure, it's a good mispositioning. It's good for... It does give some damage, but the bigger point of it is it gives your teammates time to get free damage on the enemy while catching the other team out. And you don't just win a fight by 1v4ing, jumping in, hitting the ultimate. You kind of need more than that, and every single death that they give up now is just that much more going over into the enemy team, into the Crow's pockets. 40.7 to 34.4, over a 6k goal lead. This is starting to become very unmanageable very quickly, and quickly responding to something in the chat now that we do get a little bit of downtime. For those of you guys who are not aware, double tier build Ezreal is the new meta. I believe it was actually first picked out by Reckless as he was getting ready for MSI over in Korea. But the general idea is that A, you never run out of mana, and B, the tiers stack on each other. So not only do you get 750 bonus mana off of each tier, but also the passives you get with those items, so off the Muramana and off the Seraph's Embrace, the bonus damage you get, they stack as well. So all of a sudden you get 2 tiers worth of additional damage onto both the Muramana and to the Seraph's Embrace. And as once again, you just literally never run out of mana.
Ooh, this might be bad for Weaves. Weaves getting caught out, Weaves getting punished, but Weaves gonna be able to jump over the wall and survive. But now the Barons possibly started. Questionable move there. Meowing Cat looking to tether up Afternoon. Afternoon does get rooted, but he's a tank. He's a big boy. He's going to get out of there quite easy.
Yeah, and the tanks are the issue right now because when you looked at that last fight, the reason that there can be no backline damage going out from Orion is because they don't have any way to deal with these tanks. I mean, Afternoon survived for like 10 solid seconds in the middle of the enemy team, and sure, 2.5 seconds of that was under the ult, was under the Radiance, and sure, it is kind of cheating when you physically can't take damage. But even 056, nobody could take him down either, and that's because Shang and Digboy don't have any penetration. No Last Whisper built just yet. No, sure, you do have the Merlin does give a little bit of flat magic penetration, but no Void Staff just yet. And until you get the super late game points where Digboy not only has the full crit, but also has the armor penetration, and Shang not only has super amounts of AP, but also has the magic penetration, are they actually going to be able to take a straight up team fight? And sure, at that point, they will be the stronger team on the Rift, but that point is so far off in the future, it's not even worth thinking about right now.
I wouldn't even say it's that far off, though, because as I said before, they do have a good turtle composition. They just have to play it like such. They have to take the time to delay the game. Even 5 minutes of delay with no deaths and no objectives taken would beautifully work in Orion's favor. They just need the scaling to kick in.
Exactly, but I mean, they're so far in the hole right now. Most carries, like just look at the mid lane, Shang versus Doxa. Not only is the goal differential, alright, it's not actually that bad, it's only like 500. I thought it was going to be way worse. But the item differential is 1 full item. 2 items completed for Shang, 3 items completed for Doxa, but here is potentially their saving grace. Dinka has 2 items completed, but it's not a one-on-one.
Yeah, what is Dinka doing there? A response comes out from Jin Cantor as we see Dinka drop to 056.
I mean, yeah, the Gnar will win the one-on-one, but unfortunately, you need to confirm that it's a one-on-one, and if the enemy team brings the jungler down, the rest of your team should be able to do something. But even at this stage in the game, Digboy, Meowing, plus Anchor didn't even have Shang around, and they wouldn't have won a fight on a 4v5 if they took it.
Ooh, and here comes the real tension. The Baron is being used. This is the Baron with much more health, so it takes quite a bit more time to finish it. Will Anchor get over the wall and go for the steal? He tries to attempt it, falling critically low, and the blue team able to pick this up. It's going to the cross. They take down Anchor at the same time. Call of the Force God going out, and that's 2 picked up for absolutely nothing as they grab a Baron with it as well.
That was so much risk that you did not have to take there from Crow. Sure, they walk away with that Baron in the end, but I don't know if you guys saw it, but that Baron was down to 500 HP before the smite. That easily could have been stolen away by Anchor. Fortunately, RNG gods say no, not today, but I mean, there is a world in there where you give over the Baron at this point, and that is enough to hold it over, but that is not the reality we are living in. We're in the one where there are 5 members in on these Nexus towers.
Yeah, the Nexus tower is under attack. The inhibitor gonna respond just in time to defend that last Nexus tower. But the power is still there. This is the Baron power play, and they're gonna choose to back off after retaking that inhibitor and focus their attention on the bot lane.
That was hilarious. Digboy trying to ace in the whole Weaves. Instead of someone stepping in front of Weaves, Weaves just receives the W shield from Tarek and the W shield from Ivern. He basically gained health on that play. You can get through to these carries because there's a metric ton of shields in front of you.
Turtling, man. Turtling. They just need a turtle. I don't know why they do it. I don't know why they send Dinka bot lane to die in a 1v2. Like, they are not playing the composition the way they should be playing it.
Yeah, I mean, the way they need to play is the turtle strategy, but right now they're playing like a turtle who left his shell at home. They just ignore their biggest strength. They ignore the scaling, and they bite off where they can choose so early on. Honestly, that Herald play is probably the key turning point in this matchup. That's when the gold lead went from manageable to completely out of the water. Now, they need a miracle throw away to even come back in this game, and they actually were just basically given one. The Baron, if that went back over, could have easily turned this game around, but that not going over, they need another miracle.
Yeah, I mean, Anchor died with Smite Up. We saw the 500 health that we were talking about. Like, it got pretty low pretty quickly. The Smite at that point is about 600-ish. That was anyone's Baron. Anchor was to make a big comeback play. You die for the Baron, and your team leaves turtles using the Baron, and you stall at this game even longer. But just both junglers didn't know they had Smite.
This is a big macro misplay coming out right now, because these are for the Orion squad, rather. They've got the duo up towards mid lane. It looks like they might actually have enough time to respond, but if this is a second Baron going down on the second inhibitor, rather, going down on this Baron, this would be an absolutely massive Baron power play. And talk about coming back from 1 Baron down to 1 inhibitor, 2 inhibitors down, even harder, and that just leads to the 3 inhibitor sweep.
Yeah, and this is where Orion need to do what we were talking about. They need to set up the turtle. They're doing a good job so far. They have the traps out. They have Gazir soldiers. They have the range of the Caitlyn. Stall it out as much as possible. The big factor here that works against them are those super minions in the mid lane, and they're making it so difficult to keep members on that bot lane tower.
Dinka taking so much damage from the Baron up minion as well. I mean, Banner Command coming down shouldn't be the hardest thing in the world for the 80 building Gnar to actually get rid of, but it's still such an annoyance.
And we do have an advancement forward as the Cosmic Radiance does go out. Not choosing to go for the fight because the fight in the top lane is happening right now between Dinka and 056. Dinka falling critically low, but so is 056 is going to back out from tower range.
Yeah, but that's a second inhibitor falling on the same play. And now, it's a very easy macro call if you are the Crows. You just reset, go top lane, and look to put this game away.
Oh no, Dinka once again caught out, didn't catch the rotation, so he catches those hands and falls to Jim Crontour.
Yeah, and now in the 4v5 situation, no Baron buff up just yet, which means Digboy should, with the assistance of Shang plus Americat, should be able to keep this inhibitor clear for now, but one more engage and bang, that is the end of the game. They are teetering on a knife's edge right now. One more mistake and boom, you're going game 2.
What do you think they do at this point? Do they just go for the suicide engage? I think that's their only option at this point, especially with inhibitors down. You can't even stall anymore.
I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of the only option. You can't really rely on the split push. Dinka has had not quite a bad game, but he hasn't done what he needed to this game. He isn't the reason they're losing. He's just not the reason they're going to be coming back. And being so far down, despite having a very considerable chunk of DS up, isn't able to help them out of the situation at all. And now the scaling just isn't there. You need the perfect pick onto one of these backline members if you want any chance in these fights.
Oh man, Jim, those Magi stacks.
One more until completion. Still has not died this game.
Not died at all. The perfect KDA coming up from Jim, as well as 056, as well as Doxa. All the action when it was in favor of Orion was in the bot lane. Meanwhile, every other lane, Jim Cantor just put them on check.
I mean, we talked about in the beginning of this game how Jim Cantor wanted to punish Anchor for his ganking game, but he just went one step further. He didn't punish. He just out-ganked the Sejuani, and it worked every time. And that does have to go a little bit towards Anchor not finding the opportune times, especially against a mid laner without cleanse. A little bit shocking to see that, but they just didn't make plays, and when they did make plays, they didn't get an advantage, and eventually they got so far in the hole where they just wanted to make a play and couldn't do anything.
And here comes the Cosmic Radiance Tower. Does go down. They're going to brute force this base into smithereens. Dickboy trying his darndest to be able to defend against this. But look at the health bars. They're barely touched. This is so difficult for Orion to survive. They need to just try and find the engage.
Yeah, but that was 056 in the front line for a solid 5 seconds of that fight against Digboy and Shank. And he gained HP. He does not take damage right now, but here's the flank.
Yeah, great flank coming out of Dinka. He's gonna try and get the Gnar ultimate.
He gets it!
Over the wall is Dickboy. He's trying to find what he can, but down goes Dickboy. Down goes Anchor, and down goes every single member of Orion, with only Meowing and Shang-Chi left. A big play, but far too late as the Crows look to finish this one off.
I don't know if you could find a more perfect engage right there, but it's just too late to shove.
What a beautiful use! Oh, the Emperor's Divide came up so nicely, but at far too late. It's just far too late. Just 34 minutes in, 20-5. Crows take game one.
And I mean, this game, for the first half, it was not out of the hands of the side of Orion, but they just didn't play the macro properly. They tried to push for too much, especially that Herald in the early game, when they had absolutely no business doing so. Anchor couldn't get the ganking game started off right, and just there are two lanes that they were trying to rely on. Dink in the top lane, Digboy, Meowing Cat in the bottom lane. They just didn't do anything, and immediately get turned around, and Crow, great game off the back of that, and they're going to walk away with the game one victory.
Yeah, and just what a disaster. I feel like if they do go to a redraft, they have to do it to something that fits their composition. But that's something more for the analysts to talk about, as we are going to send it over to the analyst desk in just a second. Verifying if they are ready, and yes, they are. Throw it over to the analyst, Hyper.
Yes, and then we're just going to...
I mean, story for me there is, again, Dokes is everywhere he needs to be. But the big one for me there was the top lane battle. That Ornn was there to support his team when Ornn needed to be doing what he needed to do. And Gnar was caught out 3 times, I believe, just making some poor decisions and pushing without vision. Just sort of, I honestly think that was a big key in their loss there.
And bouncing off of what Tame said, the top lane was a really good match. Doxa being where he needed to be. I really liked the Ivern pick. I'm not gonna lie, that Ivern picked and the shields with the magic, the gutsy call to go Magi's, the shields that he had at level 10. You basically, with the team that the late game team comp that Orion had, you just could not break through that shield. Even though later on they might have could have, but they were just so far behind they couldn't. And I gotta give props to just the way that the play from Crows of Judgment, their warding, their rotations, everything was just, it seems to be spot on. And especially when they were low health on that Rift Herald play, they were able to re-engage and get a kill onto that Gnar and easily push for top lane. Especially when they were low health on that Rift Herald play, they were able to re-engage and get a kill onto that Gnar and easily push for top lane.
No, you're absolutely right there, and they were taking advantage of it every time. Like 5 minutes, they had that Baron play where Azir, tried to go for the ult and only hit one person and just put himself at grave danger. And then Ezreal landed the True Shot Barrage, took like 80% of Caitlyn's health thanks to the crazy build, and it just kept falling apart further and further from there. I mean, honestly, I feel like the Crows of Judgment probably could have ended that game a little earlier if they wanted to. I don't know if they were flexing or just being super careful because of we have a almost $1,000 prize pool at this point. Why not be careful? Why not, keep all your eggs in the basket? I feel like the Crows of Judgment probably could have ended that game a little earlier if they wanted to. I don't know if
All right.
I mean, really, I wanted to point out too that just from analyzing and watching there, Ivern did not miss one Q on champions before 12 minutes. Every single one of the ones that he threw out was a connect. That to me is just nuts. Like, there was even a point down in bot lane in the upper tri-bush where he threw one that was anticipatory. And it wasn't just like a few inches ahead. It was like anticipating that Caitlyn was going to use the net to shoot herself backwards and still drilling it. That's crazy. And, it's such a cocky pick to pick that Ivern into the Caitlyn because of Caitlyn's synergy with Ivern's brush, the headshot. And he still did it and still just dominated.
And guys, I apologize. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just realized I left my mic muted to the stream. I'm sorry, guys.
I want to bounce off of what Tabe and like what you were saying about the Azir's positioning. I play a lot of Azir, and I do like to see certain positioning, especially when you're looking for picks in a team comp like with Nars, Sejuani, Karma, and even yourself as Azir. But whenever he was just getting dove on by later on in the stages, as Doxa came back in the CS differential and basically got his items online with the Rylai's, Leandries, and Archangel, just being able to do so much damage, I think his positioning should have been a little bit better in the more of the fact that your soldiers need to be a little bit of a zoning tool, and you also need to look out when that Ezreal uses his arcane shift, if he uses it in the battle or if he's saving it so whenever somebody jumps onto him they get away, and just being able to front to back team fight in situations where you know that you could possibly, especially with the Morello Nomicon, to shred through the front line of their only two tanks as being Ornn and Taric.
Okay, yeah, and guys, for those of you who could not hear when my mic was muted, we were talking about the 3 points I made that I felt gave away the game for Orion. Was Anchor's invade, the bottom lane losing hard despite being the early scaling, and Shangdi not positioning well at all in teamfights on the Azir. And one thing I want to talk about, I don't know if you guys already touched on it as much, I was dealing with some technical issues, is that last team fight. That was a phenomenal Gnar ultimate by Dinka. 4 members caught up. 4 members got stunned with the Gnar ultimate. But the problem is that Dig Boy and wasn't dealing near enough damage to take down anybody, and actually got taken out by a Twin Fang there on the end. And Shangdi was on the other side of the fight. He was nowhere to be seen, so there was no damage coming down onto an almost completely stunned team of Crows of Judgment.
Yeah, and it was especially Dinka. I got that 4-man Gnar ulti for the save the top inhib turret. It was great. 4-man into the wall, easy setup for the Azir. Great to put soldiers over the wall, but again, he was on the opposite side of the fight, and it shows how quick this Crows of Judgment are to react to a situation like that, to just burst down the Gnar before they could do anything, and also the gold lead and the item lead that they had in front of their opponents, and able to feel confident about bursting down the Gnar, so they couldn't, the Orion couldn't retaliate, or to basically counter up, basically to keep the fight going and basically win the engagement overall, to get themselves to claw their way back into this game.
Yeah, overall, it is a unfortunate situation for the Orion squad now. So where do you think they should be looking to move on to for the next game? Are there any bans they should make? Are there any picks they should move away from? What do you think?
Ban Taric. I mean, one of the big things there too is, Taric was giving out the huge heals, the beneficial stuns, and really, like, we were commenting as we were watching there. There was some times where they were like 10% health, and Tarek knew that he had the Radiance up, or the Dazzle, excuse me, and just was able to pull off a stun. And they're stunned so long, and you have the ADC just DPSing, and it's just like your health doesn't even matter. Tarek has just such sustainability, and his ult was used so effectively that whole entire game. It's like I really can't see them just letting that Tarek up. He was just too good.
I would also want to say move away from the Sejuani, even though while Tame and I were talking about it, I do like the Sejuani pick in this sort of sense. Listen, in this sort of pick comp with the Gnar, with the Sedge, 1cc hit is going to basically is what you needed. But since you were so far behind that Sejuani was basically useless, I believe about 10 minutes into this game with the pressure and the amount of fighting that was going on with Ivern having a massive shield at like 12 minutes and also the Ezreal getting the 2 kills or getting one of the kills down bot with the help of Tarek securing one, quote unquote, we'll say, and just like those things. But if Sejuani can get ahead in this game, it just seems like it would be a good pick to shut down Doxa, to shut down the Ezreal, to even pick out the Ivern so they lose one of their shields and one of their main helpers in the main supporters in the fights. So I would want to say if execution of the comp and also the Sejuani pick, I believe we should kind of move away from and kind of fight Crows of Judgment at their own game and fighting and all that other thing.
Yeah, I think that is definitely sounded like a good idea. And stream, I hope you can hear me now, because I have turned myself up double. I hope you can hear me. So, I can agree with that. Moving on there, we are still waiting for It's the Afternoon to get off the toilet before we get into draft. So, I also think another thing that they could do, besides, I think Tarek is a solid ban, is to focus on one person in particular. So, I say if you want to focus on Doxa, do it. If you want to focus on Afternoon, do it. If you want to focus on Weaves, do it. But but I feel like just going a little bit willy-nilly with this draft, it's gonna it's gonna bite them in the butt. A lot of the times it seemed almost like 056 was capitalizing off of other people's other people's decisions. So I don't feel banning the Scion against him is going to be as big of an issue. Maybe I'm underestimating the power of that Scion pick, but at the same time I just don't see it.
No, I do agree with you there, but I do feel like they're going to need, I would agree there with my co-analyst buddy here, they need to pick something more aggressive than Sejuani. And like you said, to play to that, yes, they need to shut somebody down. So I'd like to see something more like, like a Sinjao or a Kha'Zix coming out here, or even a Warwick, just something that has more pressure than Sejuani does and just playing more aggressively. Because if you let Doxa get ahead, it's ugly, man. And we've seen that not just today, but through like the entirety of the Risen season last season too. It's just a bad idea.
To bounce off of that, even though early on, the CS differential between Doxa and Shang Di, the Azir, he had about a 20 CS lead above him in the mid lane at around 12 minutes or so. I think it was about like 88 to 100 or so, 108. And once he got those items online, he basically accumulated that CS differential and basically completely evened it out. So the Sejuani probably should have shown more aggressive in the mid lane to not only get a CS differential, like increase it, but also put a kill under the or put a death onto the Cassiopeia and get a kill onto your Azir so you get those items faster and things like that. But if they want to keep going with the pick comp, I could think of one other person who would be great for it, Zach, especially with the kidnap and the elastic slingshot and able to get onto the backline, especially the highly immobile Cassiopeia and the Ivern without having with blowing a flash. That's their only way of escaping the elastic slingshot kidnap.
And all right, guys, that is going to be it here for us over at the analyst desk. We are going to throw it over to our casters, Returned and Deserix, for the second game between the Crows of Judgment and Orion. See you guys.
See you later.
And we are back. The casting desk, that is Champions League Week 1. What a match we had for that game 1. How are you feeling about the draft coming into this one, Returned?
It should be interesting. Certainly a lot of things that need to be changed on both sides. Ivern, Orion, they just don't want to see that anymore, and I can't blame them.
Ooh, can't blame him at all. The Orion, Jim Cantor, he put on a clinic. He said, all right, if I'm not going to do the typical Iron Cheese where I get the 3 buffs because you guys are like super alert about it, no problem. I'll just gank the bot lane, gank top lane, get Rift Herald, win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Absolute beast. He was easily a candidate for MVP in that last series.
Yeah, and it just felt like Anchor didn't do anything. Like, he was a Sejuani against a mid laner without a cleanse. There were so many times you can punish the lack of flash. Whenever Doxa got down, you know that guy's really the carry for that team, and just is unable to get through with it. And like that, none of his lanes actually maintain any sort of advantage. And when it's time to come for team fighting, you start up the Rift Herald when you don't have the advantage, and that is really what just started to throw away the rest of that game. But now bans have been completed. Camille plus Trundle, Kayla Morgana, Zyragon still on the board.
Now, both of them still on the board. They did forsake the Rakan as well as the Cho'Gath and Olaf from the first set of bans that they did. No, excuse me. That's the Scion from the first set of bans that they did. We're going to see how it goes. They are going to take the Rakan. Meanwhile, on the side of the Crows, they are going to go for the Xayah. So they're separating the two.
And yeah, normally you see the Xayah picked up first and then wait for the Rakan, because usually it's more beneficial to have a solo Xayah than a solo Rakan on your team. That being said, Rakan certainly with a few changes as of late has been working his way back through. And I mean, Crows picking up Taric again. It was a monster in game number 1, and I see no reason why they should change it.
Oh yes, he's an enabler. It was played so beautifully by Afternoon. The way he did it was doing what he should do, which is turning your whole team into a tank and setting up those tower dives and using that Cosmic Radiance, not just idly sitting by and being your everyday gold support. No, he ran in there with the Cosmic Radiance as well as Jim Cantor setting up those dives.
And here's the change. No longer going with Sejuani, but now a Skarner pick for Orion. But the issue wasn't the pick for me last time. The issue was just how it was used. So Anchor needs to show me he can use that ultimate, needs to show me that he can actually apply pressure as a ganking jungler. And taking away that Ezreal does move your ADC towards a little bit of an earlier game spike, but Xayah, as your opponent, it's still not going to be an easy lane.
Not at all. It's definitely rough, especially trying to catch out of Xayah, but the instant engage that comes out of Rakan can be very deceiving, and that can be the key. The thing is, the biggest thing about this is going to be the follow-up. Can you get the impale from the Skarner? Can you get the CC to lock down before the Feather Storm and get enough damage in to make it significant? Yeah,
and Rakan does have kind of the Leona issue, maybe not as much, but you have a lot of engage. You don't have much in the way of full team disengage, and that works on a team-wide level. Sure, you're able to E out as Rakan, but if you have an Olaf running at you full speed, you do nothing to stop him. You have to either pull the trigger or be very safe against the enemy squad. And the Asgardian getting picked so early on does leave it open for the Olaf counter. Olaf able to press R, get Ragnarok, means that's one less member Skarner can actually go after.
Yeah, and just to remind you, this was banned in the previous game. The Crows weren't allowed to play this Olaf. We're going to see why, because it does look like this is the champion that Jim Cantor wants to play.
I mean, it is still in the meta. It's really good at the early game scaling, more aggressive than something like the Ivern, able to really run down Scar in the jungle. Does, of course, need to be careful of fighting on one of those pillars, but outside of that, still outduels him at most points in the game, except maybe the super late game. But the real test does become, are they actually going to be able to use that throughout the jungle? Final few bans coming in. The Ornn, most notably, not going to get through this time yet again.
Meanwhile, the Scion was banned by Orion last game, and now it's picked up for, assuming 056. They're getting a lot of the picks they wanted, thanks to basically the PTSD that was set forward from the picks they had before.
And this is a very dangerous position because Doxa, once again, has the counter pick. And the Scion being picked is very safe. You're able to be a good late game tank, but your E-trading absolutely insane. And we haven't seen a Mundo in quite some time.
Yeah, he did get some pretty good quality of life changes, basically doubling his ultimate. Doesn't make him stronger overall. It definitely makes him harder to kill. If you get in the late game, he is that wall of meat that is very, very hard to get past. But the question is it going to really work with this team comp? I don't feel it that much with what they've drafted.
No, it definitely doesn't feel like a traditional fighting composition. The issue with Dr. Mundo is he doesn't have anything in the way of CC. He is just there to be a beef tank, and that only works when you want to go for the straight-up 5v5, but with the Rakan plus Skarner plus Talia, it looks like Orion want to do everything but take the straight-up 5v5, and Talia even, once again, hasn't been seen very much ever since those mid lane changes. Isn't quite as good as clearing out the wave, does need to be careful, but I mean, Orion, they want to take some global pressure. They're going to raise you Twisted Fate for the Crows.
Oh, and I'm hyped up about that one because that's one of Doc's favorite to play. It's one of his best mid laners. He's an absolute beast on it, Twisted Fate. On top of that, Twisted Fate is just, it's going to work for the composition. They have the aggression. They have the split push ability. They have the ability to just absolutely decimate this comp. How does Orion play what they've drafted as it feels so haphazard and unorganized?
Orion needs to just pull the trigger. Maybe that's on mid lane, shut down the Twisted Fate before you can actually get the roaming game down. Maybe it's on the bottom lane, but they have so many engage tools. You can engage. You don't really have to worry about Ezreal and Khan on the backside because he's just Ezreal. Talia, going to be able to enable so much of this roaming game if he can just hit level 6. But really, once again, Orion are putting themselves in the spot where they need to win the game or they are going to lose it. Whereas Orion, sure, do have quite a bit of early scaling, some good team fighting presence, but overall, 2-item spikes, I still give it to Crows if nothing's really gone down at that point. And when you look at the macro game too from last match, they are the clear favorites coming in.
Yeah, most definitely. They played the macro beautifully. They had a win condition. It said, get that gas pedal all the way to the floor and never let go. And that's exactly what they did. They had the pure raw aggression continuing. And what they have with this draft is something similar. It's something that has that type of aspect to it where it's looking to place pressure like no tomorrow. They still have the tower dive ability of the Taric. Pair that up with the Olaf. Good gracious, you give up that tower the moment he shows up and you see that Cosmic Radiance coming down. On top of that, when you try and run, you got Doxa willing to chase you with the Destiny Gate. It is so devastating of a composition, the draft.
Yeah, but they cannot get over aggressive. As hyped as you are about this Crow squad, I'm still not too impressed with the competition itself. Sure, it's got a lot of stuff to do in the early game, but if they don't get something done in the first 15 minutes, they don't really exist as a squad anymore. Twisted Fate, sure, does have some pretty good scaling, especially on the W towards the late game, is going to be able to pick out quite a few targets. But Xayah spikes around the level 2 mark and doesn't go too much further than that. I'd still give Ezreal the advantage there, at least until the 5th to 6th item. Olaf, very famous for being a great early game and then falling off more towards the late, but you're certainly right. With the Twisted Fate roam, they have every single tool that they need to punish any mistake coming out of Orion, and Orion have already proven that they are very adept at making those mistakes. They're very good at it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is a high tempo composition, but as you said, yeah, it can very, very much fall off if you do make the mistakes. But Orion, on the other hand, their comp doesn't quite as well scale into the game as well. This game is really going to be decided in the latter half of the early game. Whoever's winning out then is going to have the tempo to pretty much close out the game unless a big mistake is made, which is very likely given Orion's misplays from the last game, having Dinka way too far forward, the Azir being caught in no man's land. I can't help but to have a little bit of bias towards Crows in this one because Orion have really shown that they don't have the communication.
Yeah, I mean, remember, this is still the undefeated technically squad if you want to count in the... Well, even if you don't count in the play-ins, they are undefeated, currently 1-0 in the overall games. Not yet winning out a match, but that's because this is the first match of the season. But you are certainly right. The Orion squad does start to fall off. The biggest part being once the Skarner packs really the Skarner tax rather is really being paid. So basically, when Doxa plus 2013 Weaves pick up their QSSs, which should be pretty early on in the game, your only options of engaging are basically going to be onto the Sign or Taric, and at that point, the engages just become nearly impossible to manage. So definitely you got a great point. Focus on that mid game. Whoever is coming out of that one should have the tempo advantage basically for the rest of the game. But we're thankfully not in a world where anyone has a win condition of just wait for 60 minutes. If it gets to 60 minutes, I still can't tell you who's going to win. It's going to come down to the macro.
Yeah, absolutely.
If this game gets to 6 item, that would be like the most unexpected 6-item game possible.
Yeah, with the way both of these teams play. The thing I do got to give, though, on the side of Orion, is they have drafted something that looks like it can work more for them with the way they play. Because what they did last time was they want to fight. Mm-hmm. They don't want to fight smartly, but they want to fight. And they had a late game scaling comp last time. If they waited it out, they could have won, given they could withstand the pressure of the Crows. But now they have something that works a little long lines of their play style, something that works towards the mid game, something where you can press the advantage. You can have the roams from the Talia wall and Gardner engage with the Impale. Priceless to have, as well as the sudden engage that comes out of the Rakan ultimate. Yeah, a lot of these so enabling, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is the perfect adaptation you had to make, because it was very clear last game that that Orion has no business playing the super late game scaling. They picked an Azir, for Christ's sakes. They picked the Azir plus the Caitlyn and Karma bot lane plus the top lane of the Naren. You need to play that competition with a lot of discipline. Sure, you have some early pushing in the bottom lane. Eventually, your top lane can be a split pusher, but you need to wait for that point, and they just weren't willing to do that. They went for the Herald. They went for so much in the early game. But this point, they actually can fight early. Level 6, they should be looking to make a play. Rakan, Talia, Skarner, so much pressure around the map, so much that they can engage with, that is their win condition. Now, hopefully, this is going to be something that they're a lot more practiced on, they're a lot more comfortable on, because at times it's almost easier to find the rough engage than it is to play like sitting right there, hands in the pockets, knowing that you got to wait on for just those next few items. And hopefully they do need to start winning here, because sure, this is only week number 1 out of 10 for week 1 of 9 rather for our Champions League season so far, but they're coming into this with very low expectations. They were only 1-2 in the play-ins, got in off of a technicality during the tiebreaker. They need to step up, because otherwise there is no reason why they don't just sit at the bottom of the standings. And I mean, it's always great to see one of these great comeback stories, but you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, it's easier to start strong than it is to start weak, because then you're constantly doing this uphill battle where every single fight is the fight of your life. And right now it looks like the Crows are just going to establish that comfort early. They're going to be able to, what looks like, just take out this Orion squad with the way they've been playing. Maybe it could be completely wrong. Maybe Orion brings this to 3 games, but you have to step it up. You have to adjust to these drafts. You have to realize what you're doing wrong and figure it out fast, because once the season starts going, it's hard to come back.
But yeah, we are going to get loaded into the Rift for game number 1 here. Good to see Shank taking the cleanse once again. Is against a Twisted Fate, you just can't not take cleanse. If you don't take cleanse, you just get absolutely obliterated by the ganks. So painful to go against, but outside of that, nothing also too crazy just yet. We do see 056 going for the Arcane Comet. This was the more traditional Scion build. You basically just max your E, get so much pushing potential out of that one, but as of late, we have seen people start to go back towards the Grass the Undying just for the extra sustained lane, but he's looking to keep Dinka out of this laning phase, period.
Yeah, and on that note, our summoners are loading in as we're going to hit the Rift game 2 between the Crows of Judgment versus, I for some reason forgot the name out of nowhere, Orion. There
versus Orion. Yeah, so far, Dinka's in base. He hasn't bought anything yet. Makes me wonder whether he's connected or not. And would also like to point out that this is competitive play, so this isn't a solo queue teammate that is just not connected, not going to lane. This is a team member, and as such, they won't be able to get too much out in the early game. Though, looks like Crows just gonna have a bit of a dance party in the mid lane.
Yeah, nothing much going on. They're not going to do that super aggressive play that we saw in the early game that came out from the Crows, where they looped around the backside of the top jungle. And even though they didn't pick up a kill, it really got tense with it.
Yeah, this time though, I mean, look at the junglers, Olaf versus Skarner. These aren't really that early aggression players. The only one you could potentially mark out here is Anchor if he wants to go aggressive once again. Jim Cantor normally does get pretty low in the jungle with the Olaf just because you do actually want to get low as Olaf during your clear because you get more attack speed the lower HP you are. But even so, I don't know if you're really going to want to bank your game 2 chances off of a level 2 to 3 engage on a Skarner. I wouldn't bet on it. It is an option, though.
I don't really think it's part of Anchor's playstyle either. He tends to, so far from what we've seen, play much more safe with the way he does it. He's a reactive player, if anything.
Yeah, there's certainly the room for that, but they just need to embrace that playstyle and see how it does go on through. We do also see both mid laners picking up the minion dematerializers, and I mean, with the double global roams, you always want to be able to have that pushing out lane. 056 actually hits nothing on the Q, as he does take Q level 1 instead of the shout.
You know, I'm really interested in this mid lane matchup now. Doxa, of course, Twisted Fate, one of his favorite champions to play, but having that, what you were just talking about, the double roams, I want to see how well Shang-Di can actually match the roams that come out of Doxa.
I mean, theoretically, Shang-Di should have the greater push, just because he has more AoE damage on his abilities, better ability to push these waves out in. The way you deny the opponent from roaming around is by pushing the lane out, making them stay in the laning phase, or make them just lose so much CS for their roams. So it's definitely going to revolve a lot around that, but also, it's not just how much pushing game you have, it's not how much wave clear you have that determines who's pushing at the lane. The junglers play a huge role in this game, and actually Jim Cantor looking for the early invade.
And we are going to see a response coming out of Shang-Di as he roams up to look to deal with Jim being ever so pesky. Jim looking to actually run some more interference on the little scuttle crab of all things. Shang-Di having to back off. What an interesting change there.
Yeah, and they felt so confident being there because Jim knew that 056 was pushed up in the top lane. Dinka absolutely cannot get on this lane, and this is just absolute punishment to the Mundo. There's a reason why you wait for level 6 on this guy before you get your ultimate and before you really start popping off, because he just doesn't do too much in lane if you can't keep hitting those Qs.
Yeah, especially when you're going off something that's comfort. And 056, that's Scion's comfort. It was banned last game from him, and he's playing it quite beautifully in this early game so far as he continues that pressure on the Dinka.
Absolutely decimating, and no more pots back in that top lane. You got to think Dinka is going for the back, has to TP on back to the play as well, and that is a pretty sizable lead. Means that 056 is going to be able to push it, but no, actually, Dinka, he sticks around. Ooh, bot side.
Very, very careful. Here comes the gank. The stun does land onto Anchor, and they do not burn summoner spells this time. Overall, pretty good, safe play from Crows.
Yeah, and actually the Guardian coming in absolutely clutch on that one. Weaves was moving pretty darn fast. Not only did he get the bonus movement speed coming off of the Fleet Footwork, but also Guardian, when you proc it, which is the defensive rune that Afternoon is currently taking, gives both of you bonus movement speed, so he's able to joke out of the way of Meowing Cat's knockup, rather. And if he got hit by that, he was good as dead. We're going to have to at least blow a flash, but either way, he gets out burning absolutely nothing.
Yeah, so it is looking good for them so far. Anchor definitely being much better off in this early game, as he is not finding that much trouble, and he is looking to push those ganks early, and it's something that he definitely needs to do if he's going to match Jim.
Dinka gets so low. Ooh, if that shout landed, that was easily a kill, and Dinka still has him back, but no jungler intervention means he's probably going to be able to get away with it. He's still staying. He has no pots, no ultimate yet. He is rolling the dice.
Look at Shang-Di positioning kind of strangely, maybe looking to do a little bit of interference. Actually chooses not to go for it anyway, continues the pressure as Doxa not taking any of that, pushing forward, and here comes Jim. Jim going hard on the Shang-Di. Shang-Di can't really do much, but Anchor can as he comes to back up his mid laner.
Yeah, but no flash in the mid lane does signal a return gank before too long, and especially right as the level 6 spikes are reached by both Shang and Doxa, that's pretty impactful because now you have to play so far back just afraid of Jim Cantor, and either one gank followed by a roam or the fear of a gank followed by the enemy mid laner roaming, all of a sudden you can't respond.
Yeah, Shang Di positioning a little bit far forward. Might use the Weaver's Wall. Out goes the stun, does not last, but still Shang Di moving forward. The Destiny Gate is available for a response to come out of Doxa. And here comes the Weaver's Wall. Shang Di pressing hard on the Weaves. Weaves able to flash over the wall. Also the Afternoon having to flash over the wall. And the knock going on to Weaves. Weaves falling critically low. The Ignite is ticking away, but the return is too big as Weaves picks up first blood onto Shang Di.
Oh, and the heal coming out of Afternoon, so clutch, keeps Weaves alive through the thick of it, and wow, that is absolutely devastating. Making the first play out of Shang, but not being able to follow through on everything. Absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, there was really no teammates in that one. It was just Shang Di trying so hard. Dig Boy hadn't really gotten up there, and with only the damage coming out from Shang Di and that Ignite ever so tempting to look to finish that kill, Weaves just comes up way too big in that one.
And I don't know if you can find a better time to really roam down for that play. Doxa didn't have the 100 mana necessary to roam on down. That was completely uncontestable. You basically caught the enemy team with your pants down, and you were the one that died. And certainly going to hurt them quite a bit, but they're certainly not out. Anchor, though, does need to play a little bit of catch-up to get back into this game. 056.
Meanwhile, in the top lane, Dinka finally gets some revenge onto 056 for that bullied early game.
I mean, he hit level 6. He's got the HP regen. And 056 not quite able to put down the same level of absolute domination he got in the first few levels. And yeah, that's absolutely terrifying to see, because now Mundo, he's not going to be slowing down anytime soon. And don't even think about ganking this man. He's going to walk out with even more HP than he started with.
Yeah, that's the thing about that ultimate. The sadism regens so much health now since Mundo's been buffed, about double of what it's been before. On top of that, he does get movement speed, the duration. It's a very hard character to gank.
Yeah, but now Shang doesn't have the Weaver's Wall. Doxa has the roaming advantage, plus the mid laner, and plus the jungler rather, moving on down already. They could look for a 4-man play in the bot lane, but that would certainly be a very aggressive play if they win for it. I'm going to instead opt for a bit more chip damage on this bot tower. Here's Jim.
Yeah, they are aware a ward is in that tri-bush. They look like they want to set up something. There's so much vision in that river. They have it lit up like Christmas.
Yeah, and the below mid lane vision is so incredibly crucial for the Crows to have right now. Because
it's something big.
Yeah, because they still need to know when you're going to get a rotation coming out of Shang. Ultimate might just mean the tower.
Yeah, that's all they want. That's all they came down here for. Not even the kills. First tower going straight to the Crows. As there goes the Impale. They're after Weaves. Featherstorm goes out. Will he get the return in time? The answer is no, as Anchor take down Weaves. And now it looks bad for the Afternoon as he says goodnight. Doxa turns around, throws the gold card, gets smacked by the Mystic Shot of Digboy as Doxa on the run from Meowing Cat will survive this for now. But overall, pretty good return to come out from Orion.
Yeah, a little bit of a wasted Weaver's Wall there on the end, but all things considered, still a very positive play for Orion. And I mean, yeah, when you use the ultimate just like that, when you use that Cosmic Radiance to take the tower, you give up so much in terms of fighting power. And given that we're still so early on in the game, each and every one of those ultimates matter so darn much. And maybe just a little bit too much been off, but top lane, it goes the wrong way.
Yeah, very, very weird whiffs of ultimates. Doesn't matter. Dinka's gonna fall to Doxa.
Wait a sec. Oh, he's got the shield. Almost looked like 056 was gonna fall on the back end of that, and that would have been absolutely devastating. Though at least getting something back in the pockets now for the Crows is going to help out quite a bit, but still anyone's game at this point. Though the 1k gold advantage that comes with that first brick gold, certainly going to be going quite a long way.
Yeah, even though they got the return on those kills, that first tower gold is just too juicy when it comes to really start really accumulating gold leads. Getting that gold advantage, getting the objectives, especially with the Mountain Drake, it can really start to snowball out of control quickly.
Yeah, but they do need to make these next moves. Looks like we might be seeing a... Yeah, we definitely are going to see a macro play now.
Should be a
As
swap.
Orion's bottom lane are going to be... the Crow's bottom lane, rather, going to be going on top lane after grabbing the bot tower. And, I mean, unlike the last game where you had this mid-game scaling team versus the late-game scaling team, both these teams want to get stuff done early, so they're very happy to move on around, grab that extra golden. It does look like that Orion's actually going to be on the back foot here. They aren't aware and are keeping the two-man top lane jungle duo of Dinka and Anchor on the top side, but how long is it going to last?
Yeah, we're gonna get a hell of a fight right now as the Predator is used on the side of Chingamatore. He's going hard onto Dinka. He's not able to catch Dinka. Meanwhile, Doxa getting caught out, throws the gold card, but goes to his grave as Shang-Di takes him out.
Yeah, knowing that on the top lane does mean Dinka's going to be able to sustain up through that one. And Meowing Cat with a great rotation over finds the advantage, and the kills keep on coming. But Anchor, he's all alone.
Now we're gonna have a bloodbath here. Anchor tries to run away. The ignite goes tick, tick. It's not the end just yet, but here comes back up in form of Meowing Cat. It's not gonna be enough to save. A flash coming from Afternoon, able to stun Shang-Di, but Shang-Di just cleanses out like it's nothing else. But Dinka comes for a flank. This is a very weird flank to do. Dinka falls, knowing three members are there. Why choose to take that one?
Yeah, and once again, this is the positive play made from Orion, and immediately they take 2 steps right back. They held on to the top lane, they got the mid tower, but then Anchor, randomly knowing that there's 3 members on the top side, goes into the enemy jungle, pays the price of his life for it. And then at the very end of that play, not only do they drop Shang there in the mid lane off of a great stun for its Afternoon, at least pulling off the flash, or the cleanse rather, Dinka just comes on over, no ultimate or anything, and gets caught out once again. It's these small little losses that are really differentiating these two teams right now, and it's why Crow are still very solidly in control of this match.
Yeah, and I don't understand the communication that's going on. I really want to hear the comms of this, because in what world was Dinka going in a good idea? I could see a pincer coming out if you act together, but you already had an instance where Shang-Di burned his cleanse. They already had a winning situation. All they had to do was walk away.
Exactly, but they are unwilling to do so. But now, they do have the ultimates back up. Impale plus the Dance from Rakan plus the Weaver's Wall are all available. Time to make that next play.
And the next play will be that dragon. It's an infernal as Vision starts to get light up over there. Lit up.
Moving back on through. Initial Vision game still favoring the side of the Crows for now, just because of how many control wards they do have just existing in this bot side river. But how long is it actually going to be useful? What would certainly help out the Orion right now is if they could actually move towards this Twisted Fate. Don't give Doxa the benefit of his ultimate. Because if you stick next to Doxa, he's not going to be using his ultimate during a fight, which means you just have a 1 ultimate advantage going in towards pulling off one of these fights. But good movement still means that this dragon is going to be started finally by the likes of the Crows, but not quite committed to just yet.
It is committed to now. It is going to fall, and a flash forward from Mega results in nothing as the smite comes out clean from Jin Kantura. They are going to look to run away. Weaver's Wall goes out, but it blocks no one from escaping. And overall, pretty good play to come out of the Crows.
And just like that, they burn the full teleport channel. Dinka comes down, and the Weaver's Wall as well, plus the flash out of Anchor. And they get absolutely nothing in response. That is devastating. And now they're going to try to get something out of it, because they really need to, but another unfortunate set of circumstances coming out, and Anchor's flash is potentially the most important summoner spell in this game. Whenever you're able to flash ult either Weaves or Doxa, you basically know you're going to win the fight outright, but when you don't have that up, you're praying that someone else on your team can actually start the engage, and with that banner of command, meaning that is going to be a 2-0 tower advantage, still going very much in the favor for the Crows of Justice.
And one thing we have to point out about that is actually Dinka choosing to turn around with the sadism, going hard onto 056. 056 able to dodge the first of many cleavers to come. One lands. They're still going hard. This is going to be a very, very vicious tank battle as here comes Jim Contour, and he's looking to take out Dinka. Out goes The sadism, that's all you really need. Jim Couture looking to come up huge. Anchor, you're far too late in this fight. Double kill.
But
Just went
thankfully
into the
for him,
AFK. Okay, there we go.
Jim Cantor is in fact able to. He's able to continue on that play and go for now. And that's going to mean a Herald, and a much safer Herald in game number 1.
Yeah, and it's these constant little small mistakes that keep coming out. Like, Dinka, you gotta know Jim's coming. Anchor can spot out Jim. They're right next to each other. You know Jim's more powerful. Don't take the fight, man.
And I mean, both these teams are set up to start fights. Doc's really the only reactive member on this map. Being able to ult nearly at will, anywhere nearly on the map, he can respond to some plays. But basically, whichever team starts one of these fights is going to win it. And Dinka knew he didn't have backup coming. So they weren't going to be able to start the fight on their end, which means you need to just fall back, let your team set something off on the other side of the map, use that power that you have drafted for yourself to really start something off, but now you find yourself 3,000 gold in the hole at the 17-minute mark. And this is starting to become a lead you just don't come back from.
Yeah, we were saying earlier, whoever takes the tempo towards the latter half of the early game to the mid game, that should be the team that wins. It'd have to be a big, crucial mistake for that type of lead to be swapped based on the compositions draft on both teams, and it's looking pretty good for Crow so far.
Yeah, and still, key ultimates are still available. I mean, the Ragnarok up for Jim Cantor. Dox is still with his Fate ultimate as well. Weaves plus Afternoon both having ults too. Sure, they may have been pulling off plays, but they still have the ability to pull off so many more. The question does now become, when does this side for the Crows actually find that next big pushing play? It's probably around mid lane, but now they're hovering around the mid lane as well, getting that vision game up and just looking for complete control. And now, Sog, what is Sog going to do against this banner minion?
He's gonna flash, apparently. Why is he so far forward once again? Getting deja vu here. We saw it earlier with the Azir. Now he's just getting into really bad no man's land positions, having to burn his flash. There's just too many questions.
I don't know why he keeps queuing that Banner of Command minion. So, for those of you who don't know, Banner of Command minions cannot be damaged by ability power. And he just keeps trying to queue the Banner of Command minion, which is magic damage. Literally does nothing. But now Dinka, essentially caught here in the bot lane.
Yeah, the Ignite used, so it's going to reduce that sadism healing. It doesn't look like they're going to catch him out just yet. He will out-heal that, get under the tower safely. Here comes Anchor, though. Anchor might want to give some backup. He's only there for intimidation purposes.
Yeah, but they know that Afternoon still has the ultimate available, still has a Radiance. So even if Anchor pulls somebody in, it's very unlikely that they're going to be able to finish off that kill. And it's this hesitation with the triple engaged squad that's really hurting Orion. This is completely different from last game. You don't want to play on the back foot. You want to be pushing ahead, and it almost feels like they learned their lesson from last game, but this is not the time to use that lesson. This is a completely different comp.
Yeah, now we're going to see this bot lane inner tower drop, putting the towers 3-0. A double stun to come out of Afternoon. They want to get a gold card on the Dinka, who doesn't have sadism anymore, but he is able to get away. Meanwhile, Weave's taking a lot of punishment from Sang D. Will manage to run away, but here comes the dinner bell. Here comes the rush, and here comes 056 as he comes up big onto Anchor.
All right, I'll give it to him. He finally hit an ulti. Definitely going to be doing a lot better, but now he's going to keep going.
Yeah, and Shang-Di doesn't have flesh from earlier. He burnt it out of fear, but does manage to get down Weaves.
Yeah, all that time, Herald in the bottom lane means that the first inhibitor tower will be falling before the 20-minute mark. Though that was a clutch seismic shove coming out from Shang-Di, at least securing the one-for-one trade on that mid tower. Not going to be falling completely unanswered. Another banner minion, this time on one of the casters. Going to be pushing down that mid wave. And without Shang-Di, do they actually try to finish this one off?
It doesn't look very likely as the force engage comes out from Meowing Cat. He's trying to come up big. It's Afternoon using the Cosmic Radiance. It's not going to save him for much longer as Dinka picks up a kill.
Meowing Cat also burning the flash there and the Ignite onto 056. a little bit too aggressive. Something you do need to keep in mind when you're playing Rakan is that you always have to keep in mind where your team is, because you can move a long distance with that ultimate, but
the Impale does land, but it's not going to do much just yet. But they do find Doxa still going a little bit too far forward on that flank. Now Weaves is cut out. Weaves is going to drop. And now this finally gives Orion some breathing space as they set up this mid lane siege.
A bit peculiar there with Doxa looking for the flanking position on the Twisted Fate. And I mean, once you lose your mid laner like that, you just got to call off the fight. Because that's now even more gold back into the hands of Orion. And going to be able to take a Mountain Drake off the back end of all those plays. But Baron buff is still on the board. Bot lane inhibitor is still exposed. Nothing too big is going to come off the back of that play. And I mean, Orion are still looking at a huge uphill game. Just under 5,000 gold now deficit. Currently going against them. And it's going to take either this Baron or basically a full team ace to even come close to evening out the scoreline.
Yeah, I mean, they did get that tower in the mid lane, but that was the first tower of the game for them. They're devastatingly behind when it comes to objectives, never mind gold altogether.
Yeah, but this is still going to be, and this burn actually going to be very impactful because this is still going to be the side of the Crows. They still are on a clock. Their biggest member right now, Jim Cantor, 3-0-1. Remember, he is on. He's on the Olaf. Olaf does not have the best scaling in the game. Usually falls off pretty hard around the 25 to 35 minute mark. Once the enemy carries are actually able to kite him around, he doesn't have the best damage scaling of all time. So if you stall this game out potentially for the next 5-ish minutes, wait for your double tier Ezreal to be completed, wait for Mundo to be an unkillable just demon tank, you could look to actually bring this one back around, and that means that if the Crows want to put this game away, they got to do it within the next few minutes.
Depending, though, because a lot of this still does come down to the macro play, and it's always felt like Crows aren't on the same level of macro. I mean, are on a higher level of macro than Orion.
Definitely a point, but you still, the difference in micro, the difference in power spikes still makes the macro game way easier to play. And it's always 10 times easier to play the dumb engage comp than it is to play the well-disciplined, we need to wait for 6 items composition any day of the week. So when you're looking at late game compositions to pull off, this is definitely the one that favors at least the play style for Orion just a little bit more. And Dinka just playing with the enemy bot laner, knows that he can just heal for God knows how much.
Yeah, but we are starting to see the Baron setup come in. Wards on the side of Crows, looking to heavily establish vision and counter vision in that area. They do have a composition that does melt it quite decently, but Shang-Di caught out a little too far forward once again. But Anchor able to run there just in time, able to protect the mid laner.
Yeah, but they aren't actually able to push anything further through. They burn the Twisted Fate ultimate, they burn the Olaf ultimate, and they don't get anything out of it. I mean, they do get Shang-Di's flash, but they don't seem to be that keen on punishing it just then. Olaf ulti comes on through. They're looking for the fight.
And here comes the fight indeed. They're going to look for Meowing Cat. Meowing Cat able to use the ultimate, but a red card stops Meowing Cat in his tracks. And now the Cosmic Radiance, a double stun onto Dinka and Anchor. They're going to melt down Dinka as Dinka using their sadism. It's not going to be enough. They're going to continue the pressure, continue the advancement, but being able to be slowed and peeled off by Shang-Di stops the bleeding for only 2 deaths.
Yeah, but now with 2 members down on the board, this could be a Baron attempt. Anchor's still on the board, and if we've seen one thing so far, it is that these Barons are anything but secure.
I don't know. When it comes to Anchor, though.
I mean,
Some of those, actually, both of them. Yeah, both of them. Yeah.
You could just flip a coin and probably get more consistent results.
Yeah, we're going to find out in just a moment. Shang-Di over the wall, trying to run some damage onto Jim Cantor. Meanwhile, Anchor wants to run in. He's not going to find anything. It's going to be a free Baron on the side of the Crows.
Anchor not even coming close to looking for the steal, but here's the wall.
And there it goes.
Yeah, I just watched that back, and I mean, Anchor was just hanging around mid lane. He has the Blast Cone available to try to get over the wall if he wants to go for the steal. Doesn't have the flash up just yet, but it was a very non-committal Baron, or at least Baron response for Orion, and that's going to hurt them so much. Once again, they have the engage squad. They just want to go in, pop some ultimates, find something, but they hold back at the worst time possible, and bang. Baron buff now could be the direct run back. Running down mid at the moment, but still this would push on the bottom lane. There's going to have to be a hell of an engage if Crow are not to take this next inhibitor.
Yeah, but they got to pull the trigger. They got to find the opportunity. They have the flash up on Anchor. They have the impale up. They need to find the right target, and they got to make sure it's a squishy one where the Cosmic Radiance will not drop down in time to save them. But here we go, the ultimate burn.
Inhibitor.
At 056, doesn't quite land it. He is in pretty deep. True Shot Barrage lands onto 3. That's going to bait out the Cosmic Radiance, and they have no choice but to back out. They can't continue this without the Cosmic Radiance, and there goes the Impale. Doc's not able to use the Hourglass just in time, but he's going to go down to Dick Boy. Now Dinka being the front line of this, pushing forward with this team. The aggression is huge. The stuns are going out. They take down Meowing Cat. Weaves trying to kite this as best he can. Featherstorm goes out, and finally the Man Beast falls. Dinka not able to be taken enough. They're going to take down Dig Boy as well at the cost of Weaves. And what a fight to go out both ways. 2 for 3 exchange in favor of Crow so far. The wall goes out. It prevents a little more damage with a flash over the wall coming out from 056. Looking to put the pressure on the Shang-Di, but Shang-Di is going to stay alive for now as this inhibitor falls and the Crows still continue a lead.
And that is the second game in a row where Crow have actually shown so much hesitation when taking that bot. Well, last game was at the top lane inhibitor tower. This game is at that bot lane inhibitor as I punch my microphone. They burn the Righteous Glory so early as almost a zoning tool, but afterwards they aren't really confident to take that last fight. Thankfully for them, there wasn't enough damage, there wasn't enough coordination coming out of Orion to actually solidify through the rest of that fight, so they do still come out on top, they do still come out with a great advantage, but these are inconsistencies that can be exploited not only in this game, but even further on in the season.
Oh yeah, most definitely. With the way they played that, it was beautiful, but there was a lot of hesitation in that. They were barely able to pull it out, especially with the Cosmic Radiance being burnt early. It was a very great engage to come out of Anchor flashing forward with that Impale to find Doxa. But the big thing there was Weaves just would not fall. Dinka went hard on the Weaves. Weaves stayed alive for so long to finally chip away at that health and get him to drop. And it took Dig Boy going forward by himself to take out Weaves, which that already is a bad move. He's going to drop to the rest of the team, and there you go. A pretty big win for Crows.
Yeah, and right at the start of the fight, it looked so positive for Orion, especially with the 3-man engage knock-up with Meowing Cat. He lands the Dazzle onto 3 members, knocks up 3 members. I believe it was Weaves, Doxa, and Afternoon on the backside. But the problem was when he went in, once again, there wasn't anyone to follow up. So all he was doing was zoning. If you combo that with like a Talia Seismic Shove plus the Minefield, you basically wipe that team. You can look for the big AoE fights, but they're just not putting together their key ultimates at the moment, and that's just making it even harder for these fights to go their way. But now, they really need to defend these last 2 inhibitors. Thankfully for them, though, no Baron buff anymore.
We're going to see how they play this. If they choose to go for a team fight, they got to play it out well. They have to really utilize the Weaver's Wall, and that's what's going to go out right now. It does isolate 2 people, but those 2 people are the tanks. Not going to find much for it just yet.
They needed to go there, just take out a tank before anything could happen. You don't have to burn that much, but by wasting the Weaver's Wall, you're just putting yourselves at an even worse situation for going down. If you're going to want to win a fight, eventually you got to kill those tanks, and you might as well get it out of the way right here, right now. But with that Weaver's Wall gone, that's going to even more embolden the Crows of Justice to take this next top lane tower.
Yeah, and with Dinka going to the bot lane to defend that inhibitor from super minions, it's a 4-on-5 so far, and they're just going to continue this pressure, and what devastating pressure they have.
Yeah, but they're not going to be confident enough yet to try to crack open the rest of this base. Still, game's not that far out of hand. I mean, it's still, don't get me wrong, it's still a 7k gold lead. Definitely not a situation you even want to be close to. 6k lead rather. But it's not enough where you can just walk into the base until you really start taking these fights. And all it takes is one good combo between Meowing and Shang to really turn this game back around.
Yeah, but it's landing that Weaver's wall that's ever so crucial. If it doesn't land flush, if it doesn't isolate the way you want it to, that's it. You're done. You can't engage for a while. You have to delay the game even more.
Well, you don't necessarily need the Weaver's Wall. The Weaver's Wall is very nice to have, but it's more the Recon engage with the follow-up. If you can land that Recon engage, that is what wins or loses you the fight, but you need to be able to combo that. And so far, Meowing Cat's kind of been hit or miss with the ultimates, but even when he hits, there's just no team behind him.
And here we go. Doxa is caught out. Being dragged to his inevitable demise is Doxa as he uses the hourglass. It's only going to delay his demise as he drops to Dinka. And what a great pickup from Anchor.
That's a 4v5 now. They really need to look for this fight, but Dinka's fighting alone. He's not even going to join his team.
What is Shang-Di doing being the front line right there? Bad situation. Down goes Weaves. And now 056 in the middle of 3 members of Orion will drop to Digboy. Dinka still there, still trying to take out Jim Couture. You said what is he doing? He's dominating. That's what he's doing as he shuts down Jim Couture. The blast plan, a great flash coming out to Dinka to get into the blast plan and be able to be knocked over there with the afternoon. The Dazzle is going to run some distraction, but it's definitely not going to be enough because with no more mana, there's no more chance for you to escape as the afternoon slowly but surely drops and gives the ace over to Orion.
That was such a greedy fight coming out, but sometimes the greedy is rewarded. I was originally very confused why Dinka was roaming over because I thought that Weaves would be able to fight his way out of the corner, but some great combination plays between Meowing, Digboy, and Shang put that to rest immediately. Knock out other squad, but now they're trying to start up this Baron. They don't have the fastest Baron in the world, and that's going to give time for Jim Cantor to come back up, but does he make it here in time? There's that DP.
That teleport's coming out. They do have a
Jim's
lot
not
of
gonna be
awareness of what's
here.
going out here. Doxa getting a little too far forward now because the Impale on the Doxa. They are going to pick up the Baron. Digboy able to take that kill, but down goes Anchor to Weaves, and this is looking disaster for Orion. It's a misstep that might cost them big as Dinka's still going big. Here comes Shang-Di. Digboy over the wall. Ragnarok being popped on the side of Jim Couture. Jim Couture goes so hard on the Digboy. He's not going to be able to find the kill. Jim Couture wants to run out. The zombie form coming out from 056 is going to be the end of him.
Jim has nowhere to go.
Couture ready for his life, able to get out of the Baron pit just in time, and a 2-for-2 exchange plus Baron in favor of Team Orion.
They needed that Baron, or it was going to be the death of them. Thankfully for them, they do pick it up, and now they have every inhibitor back up. They have gotten what they need to get back into this game, and once again, Ezreal not actually going for the double tier build, a little bit perplexing. He's already picked up a Last Whisper and has a BF sword, so potentially looking for the Bloodthirster as well, but I'm doing a little bit of a head scratching here, though it does look like some slight lag coming out from Jim Cantor. Is it going to put a pause in this game?
I'm kind of surprised Jim didn't go harder after Digboy. The Digboy lost his Arcane Shift, lost his Flash. There was a lot of chance for Jim Cantor to actually get the kill on the Digboy, but instead kind of backed off into the Baron pit, which is very much a head scratching.
Did Digboy not die? I swear to God he died.
No, he got away.
He got away.
Sure.
You're right, he did get away.
That was Shang-Di and...
You are
Dinka
correct.
who died?
Huh. Well, either way, as I do catch back up here to our pausing question, either way, though, what is going on with Digboy's build right now? Because he doesn't have much damage behind that. So, to break it down, he's got the... So, starting with what's normal, he does have the Triforce plus the Muramana. From here, you either go for like a Blade of the Ruined King, you want to go kind of traditional Ezreal build, or you can go for the...
Double tier.
Double tier, of course. He hasn't built the tier yet, so not really going to have enough time. QSS makes sense, doesn't want to get locked down for too long, especially against Doxa, but what is that BF sword building into? If it's building into a Bloodthirster, I honestly don't think he has enough damage to really warrant that, and given that his other carry is a Talia, he needs to be the one to deal the damage in the late game.
Yeah, I'm thrown off by that BF sword so much now. The only thing I can imagine, like, yeah, Bloodthirster makes no sense. Infinity Edge would be a terrible choice right here.
Yeah.
I can't put my thoughts to it.
Like, what else builds out of a BF? I think it legitimately is a Bloodthirster. On the super off chance that that's Essence Reaver, he might actually be trolling. I don't think that is the option, because I think
Guardian Angel.
Okay, Guardian Angel could make more sense, but I still on. All right, so yeah, the four things is Essence Reaver, Infinity Edge, GA, and Bloodthirster. I don't know. I'm personally not a huge fan of it. I think he does need a lot more damage left in that build. But either way, he's going to be going for something. And if they keep making the macro plays the way that they are right now, it might not even matter, Ryan. Still pulled off a great defense, but now they need to turn that defense around and turn it into offense. Looking for that base, but here's Weaves. 2 levels down on Shang, but he does not care.
Does not care at all. But he's still pushing forward. Next dragon is spawning very soon. It's going to be Infernal. That could be double Infernal for Crows. Something you definitely want to stop with the type of damage they can do in prolonged fights.
BF Sword does not build into Mercurial Scimitar. What are you talking about? But wait, no, it doesn't. It doesn't, right? I'm not going crazy here. Yeah, no. Okay, thank you. But pushing up here now. Trying to look for this dragon. That's being another Infernal.
The Dazzle goes out. Anchor getting caught up, locked up, and here comes the Cosmic Radiance. Dinka going hard onto the back line. Jim Cantor looking to run some distractions, but 056 is all by himself. This is what you were talking about. Take out those tanks because they have to deal with them eventually anyway. Now Anchor flashing forward with a huge impale. Zhangji able to take out Doxa. Dinka's dominating. This is coming up so big for Team Orion as they look to take out everything that this team has.
Yeah, and just like that, he's gonna have enough damage to at least complete this game. And with 4 members down, that could be the match. But right now, trying to pressure on the backside, Jim Cantor's not gonna let this game go over that easily. Trying to push the mid lane to pull someone away. 20 seconds left on the death timers. They can definitely get an inhibitor. I don't know if they can actually end though.
Ooh, this is pretty close. Jim Cantor is there. There aren't minions. They're just barely starting to funnel in. That's going to go down. This would be the game right here. 35 minutes of the game. We said it would take a crucial mistake for this to fall apart. And it is falling apart for the Crows as Orion take game 2.
I'm more disappointed that we didn't get to see what the continuation of the build was there for Dig Boy. But yeah, that was just throw after throw. I mean, we saw the glimpses of it. Game number 1, top lane, inhibitor tower. It didn't look like Crow were actually comfortable enough to go take that tower, and it does bite them in the butt. Bottom lane, inhibitors, we see the same thing, and then it's just throw after throw, especially around that Baron Pit the second time around, and dang, they just can't pull it through this time.
Yeah, and there was so much going on there. I mean, really, they had very, very aggressive team comms on both sides, and when it came down to it, the Weaver's Wall isolated out the Scion, and then that enabled one tank to fall and enough distraction for Anchor to finally pull off that very, very key flash forward impale on Doxa, and it came up so big.
Yeah, they keep it scrappy, but thankfully for them, it's going to be just enough to give them the victory, and just like that, we're into game 3, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, and on that note, we will send it away to the analyst desk, and we will join you for game 3, but for now, Hyper, take it away.
Sorry about that. Thank you, gentlemen, for that. Now, it does appear that we are going into Game 3. I am still Hypertension, joined here by Mojo Man and Tame. Guys, talk me through that.
Okay, so if I had to summarize before we went through everything, Doxa, don't pick Twisted Fate, dude. Come on. I know you want to flex. I know what you were thinking and what you thought was going to happen. Do not pick Twisted Fate into that comp.
Yeah, the low mobility from TF and not even the amount of CC. I mean, we saw him getting caught out of mid. Righteous Glory, Predator, Impale. Goodbye, TF. He had to blow like Azanya's, and he even knew he was dead, so he saved the flash. But just TF. I mean, I was a bit hyped for it, but I knew if it didn't work out, it was just going to be utter disaster.
Yeah, that was a tough one to watch because they had. I still feel this is a personal opinion, but I feel like skill, like matchup on matchup, I feel like KMB or Crows of whatever were winning. But I feel like they got a little cocky, especially in the mid game, made some like risky plays that didn't pay off, and I also feel like they got outdrafted.
Yeah, that too. Especially when you look at Sion, Olaf, Zaya, Tarek, it looks fine for like a team comp, like a team fighting perspective. And then to wrap it all up, they last picked the mid and they picked TF. TF is more of the picking comp, like to try and get picks and over aggressions with your TF ult and just try to influence around the map more. But I like what I do have to say, I do like what Orion did in taking back and basically being fighting them at their own game, being the team fighting type, trying to fight them head on in team fights with the comp that they had, Talia, Skarner, Ezreal, with the Rakan as well. So I'm really glad that they showed a different side than trying to pick another pick comp and trying to make that work, and actually succeeding with this. And glad we're going to a game 3.
You know, props to Dinka too for eating all the BM from the analyst desk and the casters, and then coming back and carrying the game as Dr. Mundo.
Yes.
You know, third most gold in the game, or actually no, second most gold in the game. As Dr. Mundo, he just like Mundo goes where he pleases. Most CS in the game, lighting people on fire, burning his own body, not caring. He truly went where he pleased in that game.
It's one of those old sayings. You see Mundo. Mundo doesn't give a damn because you're already dead.
Yeah, pretty much. And I didn't expect it to work. Him and I were just sort of like talking quietly while the picks were up, and I'm like, oh, and he's like, oh, they locked Mundo, and I'm like, oh, but, you know, it's awesome
Mundo!
to see off-meta things actually succeed.
I mean, I can see the Mundo working out, especially into the Sion, because all Sion wants to do is use his W and just stack his health up with the shield, and just his Q from Mundo just does like that max health damage. So once he hit level 6, he was able to throw Qs out, take a bunch of damage, and get Sion into, oh, I think I won this trade. And then he pops the ult, runs at you at like 1,000,000 miles an hour, throwing Qs and Wing and Eing with the fire. I mean, it's just, even the solo kill, like I was like, Dinko redeemed himself from the first game with the solo kill, and I gave him a little like golf clap with that. And I'm glad he actually made like a complete 180 degree from the Gnar game to Dinka getting a solo kill onto 056.
Okay, so moving on from that last game, where do you think what will be the next movement onto this final game? Where do you think will happen? Actually, take that back. We're going to go to a short break real quick. We're going to be right back with that in just a few minutes, okay, guys? Because there's one thing we need to do, and I think you guys know what it is. At least I know that Tame knows what it is. Tame, do you happen to know?
Does it involve memes?
It involves a meme. It involves a massive meme.
You
know
I'm
what?
drawing a blank.
You know what?
I'm
Let me
completely
just go
lost
ahead and say it. You know what? Hit the silver scrapes!
Ooh.
Oh no.
Alright, guys, and after the shortest Silver Scrapes break ever, we are back here at the Analyst Desk. We'll just move on. As I was saying, where are we going for Game 3?
You know, I think that the comps are going to be pretty similar. I don't even think the afternoon is really going to take a break from the Taric. The Taric's been really effective. The bot lane has been pretty static. I definitely think Ezreal's going to be picked up one way or another. For me, it's about more like getting Doxa back on a character that's more effective in mid and how they counter that character. And I think the top duels are really coming to a head too. Like, I think within like a couple days, or excuse me, a couple games here, that they're already building like sort of a top rivalry that I want to see play out here in this last game.
Yeah, especially when we have with the previous bans, Camille has been banned out 100%. Trundle has also been banned out 100%. So I want to see if they're gonna go for the like probably hinder that bot lane with banning the Taric and possibly the Ezreal and leaving that Camille Trundle open, and possibly seeing a skill matchup with the top carries from Camille and like Fiora or something, or even an Aurelia maybe.
Yeah, I would like to see a little bit of change up here. I want to see what Dinka could do on a more traditional carry, because the Gnar can be a carry in some situations, but I felt like in that one, he wasn't really a massive quote-unquote carry. I would like to see something like a Camille, like an Aurelia. You never know. Maybe you could. I've seen him do it before. Maybe we could see the Yasuo.
Oh no,
I cannot believe I just
the Yasuo.
the forbidden one.
You know what? I mean, Caps did it before, so right now we are waiting on a little bit of a technical delay, guys. We will be continuing to talk it up here for the moment. So, like I said, I would like to see something a little bit like that Yasuo, like that Camille, like that Aurelia, like you said already, out of Dinka. I would also like to see a little bit less hesitation from the side of the Crows of Judgment, and kind of aggress a little bit more when you have that advantage. I felt like their hesitation was really what lost them the game there.
Yeah, you're definitely not wrong. I'm ready to go. Like, I want to see what's coming up next.
You know, we are ready to go. Gotta get this game on the road. Somebody said Yasuo. I had to pop over. Please stop.
I did not.
You know, hey,
Master
hey,
takeover.
Oh my goodness.
If it wasn't for Caps, I wouldn't be suggesting it.
I mean,
For every Caps that exists in this world, there also is one pole belter.
There's two
Like-
oh goodness.
Ooh.
Oh God.
I mean, currently at MSI, people are picking the Gnar up and trying to be able to like have that solo carry and getting ahead and just having like a 4-1 or a 1-3-1 and being nearly impossible to solely face off against the Gnar. People are picking the Yasuo to shred the protections and also just to deal like a good amount of damage
Well,
to
actually,
the Gnar in the 1-3-1.
The Gnar is actually not the Gnar. The Yasuo is coming out in the mid lane a lot more because of its synergy, mostly with the Trundle. Really because
Pillar
the
of
Trundle,
Filth.
yeah, the pillar gives you the instant knockup. You literally get an ulti in the lane whenever your jungler appears. It is absolutely nutty. Though I will be getting ready for our cast. Best of luck to you guys over on the analyst desk.
Yeah,
Best
like
of luck
what he
to you
said.
as well, Returned. We will throw it over to you in just a minute after everyone is settled in. As he said, like that Yasuo is emerging, so that is something we could end up seeing. But speaking of Return, we are going to throw it back over to the caster desk. Sorry guys, just got a lot of let's just say technical difficulties going on behind the scenes, and yeah, could be worse. We could be Team Liquid at MSI.
Oh my goodness.
See, I'm a Liquid
yikes.
fan, so I can make that joke. Okay, guys, throwing it over to the caster's desk. I say Q returned and Deserix.
And welcome back to the casting desk. And can you believe it? We're actually going to have a game 3. How are you feeling about this one, Returned?
You know what? I didn't expect it. Didn't expect it at all the start of the day. I would have predicted the straight 2-0 coming out for the Crows. But either way, hey, they pushed it to game number 3. Let's see if Orion have what it takes to bring us one the whole way. Because it's one thing to take a game off the opponent. It's another to put the series away entirely.
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely showed that when Orion drafts, it should not be the late game. They got something that works when they do mid-game based comps. Even with that weird BF sword, it worked out for them. And that's the way they should keep their draft. Try and deny those power picks away. That being the Ivern, stuff like the Ornn. Deny that away and keep on these mid-game spiking early game champs.
Yeah, I think the game plan for the Crows coming to this are going to have to be just ban away the Dr. Mundo. If you're not prepared for it, it's not that complicated to just throw a ban out, get out of the way, because Dinka, very comfortable on that champion, got quite a bit done. Not quite sure if I'd say carried the game, but certainly was a huge factor contributing to that W in the end. And I think the bigger part of that for the Crows was they just didn't give their carries room to shine. All of it required team play. They didn't give any of especially their mid Doxa was on the Twisted Fate. Didn't get any room to shine. He was always trying to facilitate the team play, whereas you put him on the Cassiopeia, you put on something a little more aggressive, and he just basically 1v5. So I think that the draft has to become a lot more carry focused, maybe even a little bit more scaling, as they've shown that they can play that style before. But either way, they just need to go with something that works and they can work together on.
Honestly, I still like the draft that the Crows went with. It was just the win condition that they had to win it out early, and they weren't able to close it out. It's like we were saying during the game, Orion has a sort of a ticking time bomb comp where they can eventually find ways to start working in it through the falling off of Crow's composition.
Well, yeah, that's exactly the point, but like if you have that extra little scaling member on top, you do give yourself that little bit of extra security. You do give yourself that little bit of extra just peace of mind, knowing that, yeah, you don't have to always make those crazy plays, because in that last game, Crows, if they did not just immediately engage on those fights, they just lost. And that is exactly what showed at the very end there when they tried to split their focus between some of those objectives in the base and the fighting themselves. Started just a domino effect of losses that eventually ended up in their Nexus. But either way, they still need to find exactly what works for them. And of course, just ban away whatever is comfortable right now for the Orion side, as it does look like we are still waiting for our picks and bans to get underway. I believe it's actually a certain top laner currently not having the best connection in the world right now. Hopefully we'll be getting back to the picks and bans as soon as humanly possible.
Yeah, and on that note, how do you think the draft changes for Crows? What do you think they're going to ban out? What do you think they're going to leave on the table?
Mundo. They're going to ban Mundo. That is the prediction right there. Outside of that, I don't think anything necessarily was too much of an issue. The Ezreal certainly is strong, but there are ways you can take advantage of it early. Other than that, nothing was too crazy. Maybe the Skarner, if you really just don't want Anchor to have anything you're comfortable on. If you throw maybe the 3 bans at Mundo plus Skarner plus Sejuani, you can really start limiting that pool down. And from there, you can actually just snowball on through. But it looks like Dinka has, in fact, rejoined us. So we are going to be getting into picks and bans.
Yeah, and on that note, I would actually focus on the Skarner a little bit. I know you did say it, but my pick to be a primary ban would be the Skarner. And not because I see it as a huge threat, but because it worked for Anchor, and lots of things kind of don't work for him. He's been struggling as far as we've seen in this tournament so far. I know it's only week 1, but we do have play-ins that we've witnessed from this team Orion. And Anchor's not looking too hot lately, but if you take him away on stuff that he does do well on, I feel like you take away a huge threat of the jungle, and now you're just that much more safe.
And we do get back into picks and bans now. Crows of Justice will be your side for game number 3. Orion going to be your red side, and immediately you have both Ivern and Anivia banned away. I mean, Ivern we saw coming, but Anivia, that is just a hard ban away from Crow. They do not want Shang to get this.
Yeah, in that, Anivia has been banned every single game as the first ban from the side of Crows. They're absolutely dying it from Shang. But we're going to see the response ban come out. In this first phase of bans, this is the very, very crucial part. We're going to see how Crows felt about the composition Orion had. And so far, it doesn't look like they're really targeting it just yet. This last ban is really going to decide that.
The Caitlyn's very showing still from Orion. They want to deny away that game 1 dominant lane. Despite how Crow may have gone down a 2v2 early on in the game, they were still very effective down on the bottom side of the map. And that does still keep not only the Ezreal available, but the Kai'Sa. And that's one we haven't seen all series long, either being picked or banned. Game 3 is the perfect play to flip it out.
Yeah, and Rakan's going to be banned. And we did see on the side of Meowing Cat a pretty good Rakan play. Some of it questionable, some of it amazing. It doesn't matter. As long as they won the game at the end of the day, it worked out, and they're taking that away, taking that comfort away from Meowing Cat.
That does still leave Mundo up on the board. Okay, I mean, we were trolling before. Trundle plus Yasuo is something possible, and knowing Dox's playstyle, I wouldn't put it past him, because this is a very effective duo when you play it right.
Oh man, please let them be right. Garner will be picked up again for Anchor, and I'm pretty sure he's really well happy about that one. He did some great impales with the Predator and flash forwards.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to have an impact when you're playing Skarner, but even so, it's still a huge step up from last game. Anchor was able to affect so many fights, so many more than he was on Sejuani, and at that point, that's all you can really ask from at the end of the day. First pick rotation still coming on through. The Ezreal being picked away, already showing quite a bit of power, but now that it's the Caitlyn being banned instead of Morgana, that leaves the pushing goddess herself to push out this bottom lane, and that is actually the Kaisa plus Morgana. That does mean Yasuo can be banned away in this next ban rotation, but this is the counter ADC we've been waiting for.
Oh, Soraka.
I mean, Soraka has been coming back, especially if you've been watching the MSI meta. She just does so much in lane with the Emacs. You just trade for as long as you physically can. Kaisa has a really rough time getting around when she's silenced for the majority of the fight. That being said, though, already seeing a Trundle, it is something that can be locked down very easily. Trundle, Morgana, and Kaisa, each with their own ways for getting onto this pick.
Yeah, it does appear. There's the Mundo ban. Definitely not going to see that one again. Crows are not having any of that, especially after that 2v1 that happened in the mid lane during one of the latter halves of the fights. But on that note, it does appear that Orion have found their comfort, and they're still drafting that type of composition. But on that note, they have opened up some of the bans that have been in both games 1 and 2, that being the Trundle and the Morgana. So I'm very interested in the way this plays out now.
Yeah, I really want to see a top laner with Engage being picked for Orion, because the substitution of Soraka in place of Rakan, the Rakan was very crucial last game, because once this Garner tax was paid, once the QSSs were picked up for the solo laners and for the carries of Crows of Justice, the only one who could actually engage was that support pickup with the Rakan. But now, once we get the QSSs, they don't have any engage left. They are solely relying on the power coming out of this Jace pick now to work with them. Now, this could be a flex pick. Can go mid lane, can go top lane as well. But they're playing with us. They're not going to give us the Yasuo this game.
We could have dreamed, but it would have been for the memes. It would have been great to see.
It's legitimately the meta now. I mean, MSI, it is straight pick ban where you just with the power you get out of it. So it's not something that's too crazy as much as we do meme the Yasuo, but still unfortunate that no one's going to be willing to pull it out here, unless, of course, it could go to the top lane, but even so, wouldn't expect it too hard. And counter pick, the flex pick seems to be met with the double flex picks once again. Cassiopeia and Vladimir can technically go either mid or top lane.
Yeah, and Vladimir was banned out last game. Not sure on the reasoning why, but they're choosing to take it instead of banning it this time. Try and deny the counter pick most likely might be a comfort on the side of Ryan, but that type of power, that type of relentlessness from just those two picks alone is very devastating. And speaking of devastation, here comes the Syndra locked in.
All right, Orion are looking to end this game early. The Syndra plus the Jace. Terrible scaling, but great early to mid-game power, especially with the Ezreal. Able to pick up the power about at the midpoint of the game. Still 2 items, depending on whether he goes for the double tier item or not. Depends on how quickly he's scaling, but this is not a team you can take into a late game fight and still do well. And they need that huge gold lead to even think about walking this one through.
And you know what? It's just so suiting of them. They've shown that they're not comfortable with late game. Now they're just putting all their eggs in that mid-game to early-game basket, looking to just straight out brawl out an easy fight. But at the same time, Crows are looking to do something similar. They've limited their front line. Same thing with Orion. And they have a really skirmishy comp. They have one where they want those corridors, where they want those really tight fights in order to try and take those victories. And they have quite a bit of pick to come with that too, just because of Morgana.
Exactly, but with the pick potential between Morgana and Trundle, and then the team fighting ability of Cassiopeia, Vladimir, and Kaisa, you still don't get too many better scaling compositions than this one. Cassiopeia plus Vladimir, so much backline AoE damage. Vladimir, of course, getting the straight AoE off of his ultimate. Cassiopeia, great target damage. And then Kaisa, able to jump into the backline off of a Trundle on a binding. Sure, it's going to be put down quite hard in the early game. The Soraya plus Ezreal should be able to punish for the early stages, but if they do not put that champion away, she's going to come back at 2 items. She's going to come back hard.
Oh yeah, it's very hard to stop once the snowball begins. And considering they have 3 snowballs waiting to roll, ooh, Ryan have to play this with raw, ruthless aggression.
And I mean, nothing less than that's going to put this game away. Basically, the item spike you need to be looking for is once the QSS are picked up by the Crows, because then it really is only leaving Syndra as the main engagement tool. Once Anchor is not able to help out in these fights at all, that is going to be when the rest of the squad really starts falling off.
So one thing I want to talk a little bit more about is the Jace. I'm very interested in this pick. It's starting to pop up a lot more lately. It does offer quite a bit of early game damage. We see a lot less tiers built on Jace now, and they mostly go for those serrated Dirk items that are looking to absolutely shred that early armor and shred anyone who walks in the range of that Q.
Yeah, you get lethality and you do not stop. You do see this guy in quite a few different matchups. Not too many pros are running him as of late, but yeah, the semi-generic build is you go for the Dustblade of Drakthar, you go for the Ghostblade, you go for just as much armor penetration as you possibly can, usually round that out with like the Black Cleaver, maybe even a GA if you want beef, but you do not build any sort of scaling stats, and sure, it's going to do really well against the squishy composition of the Cassiope, the Vladimir, the Kai'Sa, and Ana, so the poke squad actually coming out of Orion is really, really devastating to look at because you got Jace, you got Syndra, both able, and Ezreal, all 3 able to set up these long-range skirmishes, but Trundle is so incredibly good at taking a poke composition and just shutting them down because that pillar, once you get hit with that, you just got to either turn to fight or you turn to run.
Flash away. There's not much else you can do. It's very disruptive. The slow that comes from it. The fact that it's a piece of terrain, like what in the world, man?
Mm-hmm.
But we are going to get into the loading screen in just a second and take a look at these keystones. But overall, based on this draft and based on the performance we've seen in the last 2 games, what do you see coming out of this?
Dig Boy took this
he did it!
Teleport. Oh my, I was joking when we said, okay, all right, this is going to be a good game. So Dig Boy literally just never gets pushed out of lane because he can teleport back, he can grab the tier almost instantaneously, hold that pressure over Kai'Sa, and if he needs to go gain top lane, he can because he just got teleport, and then the heal going onto Meow Cat. Wow, all right. This could be a fun game.
Oh, yes, it is. I can't believe
is this going to be too much for Orion to actually pull off? Because still, the early games aren't looking that great for Orion. They're just finding the mistakes coming out of Crow in the mid game. But if Crow actually just sit back, let themselves scale up, don't make those mistakes, are Orion actually going to be able to find anything? Because this takes a lot of synergy. This takes a lot of skill to take off. Jace is a hit or miss champion. You either are godlike him or you just fall off to like oblivion. Syndra maybe a little bit less so, as your stuns usually are always, but still you need to get some sort of advantage. If they don't find that advantage, if they don't find the mistakes coming out from Crow, they're just done.
I feel like all of this anchors on Anchor, pretty much. He is the enabler of his whole team. He's the only frontline his team has. He has to be very careful with the way he picks his ganks and with the way he uses his flashes and with the way he uses his impales, because that is their engage right there. That is their ticket to getting these lanes to start to get ahead, to start to get some power spikes, and to start this win condition that really needs to be set up and ultimately start these devastating sieges that can be done in the mid game.
Yeah, and I really want to see him exploiting this pressure. There is no reason why you do not gank mid lane repeatedly, unless, of course, you want to go to the bottom lane, but the Syndra lane is already devastating enough if you're playing something like the Cassiope into it. Syndra plus Skarner, you do not get away from that duo. There's no real way Cassiope can get out of that. She doesn't have the cleanse to get out of the Syndra stun. She doesn't have... Well, cleanse doesn't even work against Skarner, so... Yeah, you just got Doxa. This game is going to be really hard on Doxa. He is going to be the sole focus of Anchor. He's going to be the sole focus of this Orion squad. And he's got to be able to play with it. If he doesn't, that could be the game.
Yeah, and just by seeing the Ignite, that already tells you how hard they're gonna go. There's no chance in hell that they don't focus all their attention on Doxa, because then once Doxa is shut down and once Shang-Di starts to get going, that's when you get the rotations towards the bot lane. That's when you set up those sieges, and that's when you just absolutely choke out the Crows from coming back.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely terrifying if that does get rolling on. We are just about getting hit that loading screen, so we'll be able to hit you with all the new and happening runes around the rift. If anyone's going with anything too crazy, still expecting Dig Boy to go with the Kleptomancy on the Ezreal. Don't expect him to go with the new Summoner Spellbook, even though he is taking the teleport into lane. But I do have to say, taking the teleport in lane, sure, it does give you more of an item advantage. Like, you're back the second you get enough for that tier, but you don't now have the Summoner advantage you would normally have. You don't have the Ignite, you don't have the Exhaust in that laning phase, whereas Morgana's Kaisa, when they hit 6, they're going in.
Now the Keystones are free and available to us. Nothing out of the ordinary at all, really. Kind of bums me out.
Predator in the top lane. I mean, we have been seeing Vladimir Predator just because at level 5, you just hard engage on whoever's in your lane. But if there's one person that you can really expect to be chunking out of Vladimir early on in the game, Jace is certainly one that ranks pretty high on the list, but Vladimir, once again, 056, Doxa, they just need to be able to play these lanes out safe. And on the other side, Orion, they're going to have quite a bit of opportunity to win out this early game. They need to take it, though, because they, so far, 2 games in a row, haven't shown too much in the early game, need to show it up in game number 3. Because that's literally what their game is. They have nothing else. They have the early game.
If you're Jim Contour, what do you think you go
Jim
after?
Contour.
What do you think you go after in terms of lanes? If we're looking at the bot lane, do we try and go after the Soraka early, try and get the early cheesy kills there just because of the immobility? Or do we focus down Dinka, who's been the one who's very prone to making these very slight mistakes that cost him big?
I think the good thing for Jim here is that he's got a lot of options on the board. The first one for me would have to be finding a way to shut down Anchor, whether that be through the warding, through counter ganking, just finding a way to track that man around and shut down his effectiveness. Because, yeah, if Skarner goes into one of these lanes, sure, the Vladimir is probably the safest one here, but you can very easily shut down a Morgana Kaisa. You can very easily shut down, like once ago we said, Doxa is in a hell lane. Or if he does want to actually turn his attention to a lane, if he catches out Anchor sleeping for a bit, the bot lane's probably going to be the go-to choice. Meowing should be probably the easiest person on this rift to kill. Shang-Di, if he's in a bad enough spot, can be taken advantage of, but it definitely all depends on how these lanes actually play and how much heads-up playmaking Jim Cantor is actually going to be able to do, because this game is going to be testing both of these junglers' macro game very, very intensely.
Yeah, on that note, we are finally hitting the rift for the final game, Game 3, between Orion and Crows of Judgment in the Champions League Week 1 showdown.
Yeah, sitting down in this bot lane tribe, I don't think anyone on Orion is really going to be ballsy enough to go in and look for the squad, but they do have Morgana, so they can look for a very cheesy level 1 here. A lot of potential. They're not seen just yet, but now they are.
Ooh, and this might force the flash out. Yes, it does. Meowing Cat force the flash away, otherwise be stuck in that binding and almost surely die from it.
Yeah, but the fact that Boo Busters went the binding level 1 doesn't guarantee the first level 2 spike in the bottom lane, because normally you see Morgana's picking up the W, the Tormented Soil, just because you get that extra shove in the lane. You actually usually see a lot of W maxes, but now Jim's going up to the top lane, but he's got Dink and Anchor waiting for him.
Oh, but 056 will be there as well. Now we're going to see a fight break through. Jim Contour taking quite a bit of punishment, but so is Anchor. Jim Contour forced the flash away, and now 056 on top of Anchor. They're going to back out, and we're going to see an overall win
here
for Orion. So far, at least, but now Doxa coming in to bring back up.
Yeah, but that's actually going to be a loss for Anchor, as he had to smite during that fight, and he's not going to get the buff as a result, which, I mean, JP Cantor still having the 056 there in his lane is going to be getting that advantage, but that's still a trade in the end.
Another thing I want to go a little bit further on is when you were talking about that bot lane and taking that binding first. In reality, though, the flash was burnt from that binding. So even though it doesn't give them that level 2 spike, it gives them so much pressure in terms of just Jim Cantor being enabled to go down here and try and set up something on Meowing Cat. And seeing as Meowing Cat has already eaten 2 bindings in a row, there's a pretty good chance that gank could work out.
That's definitely true, and it was more to highlight how this Morgana definitely does differ from the standard Morgana, how you do want to go for the shoving lane, but the question still becomes, does Jim Cantor actually want to focus on ganking one of these lanes? Because if he ganks bottom lane, what's to stop Anchor from going to top lane, going to mid lane as much as he so pleases? And I mean, Trundle's very good at getting these ganks off, but once 6 comes around, I give to Skarner each and every day.
Oh yeah, most definitely. It's a mindless gank, really. There's not much else to it. Run in lane, click R, run back, enjoy your gold. It's a very easy champion to do, and that's not to like discredit anyone that picks it. It's also a fun champion to do. There's so much enabling. There's so many ways to really pick out a carry and help your team get that lead. And Doxa, so much aggression, goodness gracious.
And he has the CS advantage in this lane even before that trade. Up by 2. Jim Cantor on flash.
Yeah, with no flash on Shang Di, that should be the end. But no, it's actually the end for Doxa. But luckily for him, executed to a tower.
He does still have both the summoner spells up and available. Has the barrier, has the flash, but never great to get executed to start the game off. Gonna cost him a little bit of farm, but most importantly, won't cost him the disadvantage in lane just yet. We'll actually be getting the heals back just from the refillable potion. So gonna be happy with that one. But top lane, this is why you pick Jace, because you just control the lane like nobody's business.
Yeah, but he is running low on mana now, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult to keep up that control. The thing about Vladimir is he does get some pretty nice sustain in lane as well. But Anchor is around the top side. We might see something come from him soon.
I think it'd be a little bit ballsy to go for the tower dive just yet, as unfortunately that is the only real play that could work for them so far on the top side. But Meowing Cat,
Ooh. Yeah, that is
already.
He'll burn from Meowing Cat, and that's both summoners down now for pretty much nothing.
Yeah, this is basically just taunting Jim Cantor to come down to ball lane now. Keep himself safe down here, and no wards, but at least Dig Boy and Meowing Cat are going to be very, very aware.
And that is something to point out. Afternoon is
TP
gone now. He's no longer... Oh, yeah, we do see the TP coming in.
See, that back issue wasn't too shocking because he just wants to get the Tear of the Goddess. Doxa can look for some good trades here, but he definitely needs to be careful because, yeah, you see the electrocute proc, it does damage.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. You cannot disrespect that. But getting back onto the point, this is now Boo Busters instead of Afternoon.
You are right. Yeah, and so far he's doing really well. Keeping the Kai'Sa up in CS. Kai'Sa, certainly known for a little bit more of a weak laning phase, just with the reduced range, with the Q nerfs as of late. They definitely need to be careful in the laning phase. And something as aggressive as Soraka nowadays, kind of shocking to see him that far up, but the back's finally coming through. Might just equalize that CS at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's not... Actually, will put a lead for Weaves. And... Dig Boy actually chooses not to take that back. I mean, he just had a recall.
He's got the tier. He's ready to stack it.
Yeah, at that point, just stay in lane, keep landing the Mystic shots. Why go back and lose out on some farm?
Anchor's up here, but he's still not level 6. They know exactly where Jim Cantor is. He's almost waiting for the counter gank, and not sure that's the most effective use of his time.
Yeah, but Jim Cantor is going to go forward. He's going to get pincered by Anchor and Dinka. Will he flash over the wall with it? He chooses to go for a bit of double flash coming out of Dinka and Anchor, and that's going to be first blood for Dinka.
Yeah, I didn't think that Cantor, after being seen there on the top side, would continue through with the play, but He does, and Anchor reads him like a book. Great actual sticking around, good vision control, plus good fall through, but ooh, binding on the ball lane almost lands.
Yeah, very, very clutch bind that would have been. But look at that aggression coming into Dinka, constantly trying to push out 056.
Oh, yeah. 57-38. He is still very solidly in control. He's still going.
Ooh, Emo Plague does go out. It will give him a bit of health back. And it is going to be enough to keep him alive for now. Does get a good chunk out of Dinka in the process.
One auto attack away from falling through on that kill, but not comfortable enough going under tower. Fall that one through, especially with the Hemo Plague still ticking on the backside. And Jim Cantor still putting so much in this top lane, but Doxa.
Yeah, Doxa once again looking to scare away Shang Di and forcing him to run into the safety of Anchor's jungle.
Yeah, check this out though. Level 6 now achieved 4 weaves. This is probably one of the first spikes for Kaisa. Certainly, it's definitely not the strongest, as you always do want to get later for you. Get off to too much trouble here in the bottom lane, but now he's going to be able to follow up on a good binding out from Boo Busters if they land one.
And we are starting to see the item stack for Dinka. He does get Serrated Dirk as well as 2 of those long blades. So now this is where it's going to start to suck a little bit for 056. He's going to be taking that additional damage. He's only got 2 little armor pieces to really help him out with that. And it's not really going to do much against that build so far.
Yeah, still looking to push on up Dig Boy. Not quite just yet, but level 6 has been achieved now for Anchor. He can look for the very aggressive ganks if he so chooses. And it's still just... Oh, you're going in!
Goes a very, very awkward play to make, but at the end of the day, it did burn 2 flashes in the process. So as weird as that looked, it was pretty dang successful.
Yeah, it's good setup, but now we have to see whether the fall through actually comes through, because honestly, that is something that we've been lacking each and every one of these games, not just from the crews, but from everyone. The initial plays are made, but they're never capitalized on when they need to the most, and with no bottom lane, Anchor feels so confident in this jungle.
Oh, Anchor feels a little overconfident as he has to run away, getting critically low, sub 100 health. Not worth it, my friend.
You know, didn't quite have the ball lane there ready to actually emphasize that advantage, but now with Anchor so low, that does embolden Jim Cantor to move around the jungle even more. Flash is still up for Shang.
Yeah, Shang forced to use that flash right out the gate, and Shang Di running away from that one, going to be alive, but this could cause the repeat gank to come out of Jim Cantor sometime soon.
I mean, we saw this once, and it resulted in Doxa dying under tower. Sure, he didn't die to Shang, but he did die in the execute, and definitely not the positive play you want to see, but Shang, remember, he has an ultimate. If he lands one good combo onto Doxa, that could be the end of his life, especially with a double Dorned Ring start.
And we might have a disconnect here. Yes, disconnect does come out from side of 056. Hopefully we'll have him back soon. Wouldn't be a Risen game without a pause.
Of course,
yeah. To get back into that, even though Shang does have pretty good burst, there is the barrier on the side of Doxa, which does help some, but I don't feel like it's worth taking it against Syndra.
Usually you see if you're going to go anything against Syndra, it's the exhaust, just so you can do the percent damage reduction, but even so, it did get nerfed in the laning phase, and heal's not really what you want to go for. I think Cleanse is still like the defensive summoner against Syndra, especially when you have a ganking jungler like Anchor, who would benefit very greatly from you being stunned in the laning phase, able to follow through with the Impale on his own. Honestly, though, it's either the barrier or it's the cleanse in the lane. So win with the barrier, wants just a little bit more damage reduction, or damage absorption rather, but actually an uncontested dragon. Ocean Drake this early on in the game definitely can help out some of these lanes.
Especially given the composition, but hold that thought. There's the flash coming out of Doxa, and almost a little bit too late. Really close to that Impale range.
And now that is both mid laners without flashes, and this now just becomes which jungler gets back to mid lane first, because, I mean, whether you're either throwing a Trundle Pillar down or landing the Syndra combo, either are basically lethal at this point.
Ooh, they are setting up for that top tower. They really want to punish it. They really want to take that first gold. And 056 running critically low. They want to die for it for sure.
Yeah, but that's definitely going to be the response play. Now, this is Jim Cantor on the bottom lane. They play on top lane, and
They are gonna find it and melt it as Meowing Cat. Meanwhile, we do see the pull come out from 056. He's not gonna be able to make it work. He's gonna drop to Dinka.
Yeah, that got really close there, but good enough juggling. Does end up trading 1-for-1, but now our game should be going on over in favor of Ryan and Dinka, just because of how much bully damage Dinka did in the lane, and definitely a great early advantage to start off this great early comp.
Oh, Dick Boy, getting a little bit too excited there. And if that binding landed, that would have been the end of his life right there. He did not have flash up after using that arcane chip forward.
Not quite sure what was making him confident enough, but thankfully Dig Boy able to avoid the binding just in time, keeps him alive in the end. But Anchor plus Dinka gonna be able to trade top side for bottom side, and given that Anchor got the dragon and then made his move to the top side, guarantees that Orion gets the better macro trade in this play, because not only do they dragon, they get the top tower and the herald, plus trading 1-for-1 kills, all for just one tower in response. Great macro for great early games, but now they need to keep it rolling.
Yeah, Orion playing surprisingly ever so well in this early game, and they're keeping it up. This is exactly what they need to do as they set up a very aggressive pincer onto Doxa. Doxa caught out into no man's land, and down he goes as Shang-Ti picks up that one.
Yeah, just like we said with no mid laner no mid laner flashes rather left on this match. It's whoever gets ganked first. I think I probably said junglers, but who needs a jungler when you have the Soraka plus the Ezreal? One combo down for Shang-Di, and boom, there goes Doxa.
And there goes 5-6 as he's impaled, dragged away, and fed to Dinka.
Absolutely destructive. And now, actually could look for the second tower top. That now they are pushing with the Herald. It's going to be able to take that first chunk of damage off with 2 members still remaining. There's got to be a response play coming out soon, because this is losing too much too quickly. And there it goes.
Down it will fall. Another tower in the top lane. It's looking very bad for 056. And now they're pushing forward aggressively. They want Dinka. Dinka still has flash up, and missing the petrifying gaze is Doxa. But here comes the TP right out of 056. 056 looking to go after Dinka. He's not going to find him just yet, but does have the Predator popped. He will find something, but will it be a kill? He's on the chase. Emo Plague pops. It's not going to be enough to take him out. The flash forward coming out of Dinka. Dinka's going to be able to run and escape. Meanwhile, in the top lane, we got Anchor caught out. Anchor's going to fall. Shang-Di takes down Weaves. And now Boo Butter's caught out all by himself. Dig Boy going to pick up that kill. This is looking great for Orion.
And right there, Crow are just losing their mind. That was phenomenal macro play coming up for Orion, because that was just a huge disrespect from Crow. They sent 3 members top to go contest what the pushing just happening in the top side. But as that was happening, Weaves and Boo Buster go aggressive. There's a concept in high-level League of Legends, or just macro play in general, which is the seesaw of power on the map. If you put your power in the top lane, if you put your numbers advantage on the top side, you need to play with respect on that other side of the map, and that respect is just ignored. And just like that, 2 more kills go over for just the 1 death Anchor going down.
Man, that oppression coming out of Dinka. Where's this guy been all series?
I mean, he apparently wasn't on the Jason. The thing was, they picked the Jason. When there's a Jason on the map, you either need to A, address him immediately, make sure he doesn't pop off, otherwise he will pop off, or B, go somewhere else and make them pay for the aggressive pick in the top lane. And right now, they didn't really do both. Crow don't have an answer to that Jason. It's going to be terrifying, given that he just completed the first item in the Ghost Blade. Going to be looking for what probably will be the Dust Blade of Drakthar coming up soon here, and those 2 items put together, there's not exactly a tank on the other team that can take that.
Yeah, especially this early 15 minutes into the game. Pre-20, having those 2 items is already devastating enough, but we are going to see an advancement onto Shang-Di, who does have his flash, able to get away just in time.
Yeah, and they keep forcing these flashes, but they're unable to do anything with them. And now here comes Anchor. He does have the flash and the smite.
Yeah, this is not looking good for Weaves. Weaves able to do a pretty good juke and manages to survive. And here comes back up in the form of Jim Cantori looking to go after Anchor. Does not get binded, but the silence still pressing forward. But he's starting to run low and flashing forward is Anchor. He manages to get Weaves, but Weaves tries to trade back. It's not going to be enough as Dig Boy takes him down. True Shot Barrage goes out, doesn't hit anything but Santa Monica, as we see Orion still firmly in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and this is currently Orion using the Master Rod at this point, because they bait in the counter engage from Weaves. They bait in the counter engage from Boobuster. But even if there wasn't a TP there, Shang was already on the back foot of just Boobuster. He was ready to come on down, and then there was the TP. That was a 5 versus 3 that Crow elected to take. This is unacceptable at this point, and 6.5k, that is the deficit that they are currently faced with. And I mean, sure, they have the scaling advantage, but against this team, that is a huge price to ask for when you need to come back by that much.
Yeah, and really when it comes down to it, first game was just purely a problem of taking the wrong comp. Orion looks so much better on taking these more early game oriented picks. They're just running with it right now. It's really working for them. Doxa being barely able to dodge that stun. But we're seeing a clinic come out of Orion, which is surprising considering the first game was a clinic to come out of the Crows.
Yeah, here's a very interesting point, though. I think I have to double check this one, but yeah, that is the Death Dance being picked up first item by Weaves. Well, surely we do see Death Dance as an optional, very defensive item in the build for Kaisa. You basically always pick up that Rage Blade first because of the attack speed you get at working with your passive, because just the raw damage always going to be very well received. But yeah, now he's going to live longer, but living longer doesn't really do anything if you don't do enough damage to actually impact the fight. And definitely a very questionable buy. Jim Cantor maybe looking for the engage here.
Yeah, they got to be careful with the way that they play this. The damage is still in favor of Orion. They have a lot of power, a lot of potential to really just punish any misstep in an engage, especially having that Impale that can swipe away any of your carries that are looking to advance and put them a little too far ahead.
Yeah, Anchor getting caught out so far, and they're going in.
Yeah, and that's looking really bad for Anchor, but the Wish does come out, keeps him alive for a little bit longer, enough to get the flash out of Jim Couture as he picks up that kill.
Yeah, Dinka's still in a bad spot. Here are 4 members.
Yeah, Petrifying Gaze does land during the pop! Speaking of pops, Dinka popping away at Doxa.
That is absolutely brutal. Definitely not a good spot by any means, by any definition of the word, for Orion there. But at least they're able to trade back the death onto Doxa. So not losing too much here. And Baron buff coming up in 45 seconds. So he's still not with the fastest Baron in the world. They still have a lot of damage they still can look for. But a Baron bait with this team would be absolutely devastating. If you face check that Baron, you're either face checking a Skarner, a Syndra, or a 4-1-0 Jace, all of which are bad options.
Yeah, it's on the decline right now. What we're basically saying is game 1 in reverse. The big question now is, now it's Crows that have the scaling comp. Now they have something that can go into the late game. Can they do the turtling that Orion couldn't? Because that's the key to the Crows winning now. It's stall the living daylights out of this game.
They need to do something with this Baron. They either need to find a way to delay this Baron for as long as physically possible, or they need to take it themselves by just pure luck of a steal or out macroing the other team, because right now they haven't won in the micro level, they haven't won in the macro level, and this is perfectly setting up the advantage for Orion to just take this Baron outright. They've already established that great line of vision. There's not a single blue ward on this top side of the map, though it does look like they are going to be abandoning the vision for now. So going to be losing the advantage just this moment. But either way, advantage still very firmly in favor. Now here's 3 members up to the top side. Dinka has to fight out this one again.
Does that flash? He gets away from the Petrifying Gaze, flashes forward, looking to get on 2. Doxa, but he's just going to feed him some money.
Yeah, now Dinka going on down. Certainly, that is your strongest member on the map, and now on. You want him on the split push, and what that death does buy you is it buys you a little bit of breathing room. And right now, this game is all about just stalling out, scaling on up. With Dinka off the map, you know that the enemy team can't really pressure down this Baron. And if there's a little bit more aggression in the low lanes for the rest of the Crow squad, they could actually push in, get a little bit of this vision game back themselves, but they aren't even going to discover the 3 control wards currently in that topside river. That's a lot of control.
It does kind of crack me up, though, because even though Orion are doing so well, Dinka's still Dinka. And Dinka likes to press a little bit too far forward, regardless if he's winning or losing, and that time does pay for it.
He's going to the top lane again, which was a little bit confusing for me until I realized that Dig Boy still has a teleport. So not quite as bad to have your ADC on the opposite side of the map as the Baron. Though I still think Dinka on the bottom lane would apply more pressure just with the pure amount of damage he can put out. But now, with 2 backs, this is going to open up the Baron pit for a little bit of vision clearing. And yep, Dinka, he's going to be headed toward that bottom lane. And this is where the death grip has to come on through. Dinka needs to apply the pressure down to the bottom side. But this is a play that's going to require quite a bit of coordination because they will not be together as 5-4 Ryan.
Yeah, and to go back to the teleport Ezreal, we've only seen 1 teleport so far, and that was the immediate tier back. What else should we expect from this in order to actually utilize it and make it a successful strat?
I mean, I think this is what they need to do. They need to use it on the side waves and just for the macro play. But honestly, it is there for the early game plays. It doesn't give you that much in terms of like power. You certainly can get the odd value play out of it. Maybe you need to go teleport, like base, and then teleport back after a fight to really push something down. But it's not consistent usability.
Oh, goodness. And now the Ocean Drake being taken 23 minutes through the game. That's 3 Drakes down, double Ocean on the side of Orion. And the Ocean Drakes are just so perfect for Orion right now. They have a comp that's so good at poking that wants these sustained sieges. They're just in Cloud 9 right now.
They are very happy to say the least. And yeah, I don't really think there's enough wave there. Hold up any of these towers. That means the only true available would be an engage, and here it comes.
Yeah, engage does come forward, but they back off, choosing to try and play this safely. They might bite off more than they can chew. They got to be careful with the power that Orion holds.
Yeah, the redemption already coming out, but that is 1 redemption down. And this poke game is not done just yet. All is down to the bottom lane as well. This is a perfect Baron opportunity. If they knock down this lane, Dinka still pulling pressure away. That just means everyone else can go to Baron.
Yeah, the map is very much in the hands of Orion as they take down the mid inner tower. They get the stun onto 056. Doxa feeling a lot more brave, feeling a lot more anxious. He wants this kill on Adika, and he finally gets some revenge onto him.
Yeah, doesn't even need to land the ultimate. This is the... Eventually, you just out-damage anyone you really look at. And Dinka needed to land just a little bit more at that fight. And maybe even have to build a little bit more defensively as well, just to... When he's not with poke comp, he's not quite ready to go full-on flip. The big thing there was Doxa was allowed to roam down to the... without actually having TP available. And there's no response. They don't move up to Baron. They don't actually... down. A little bit questionable play as we are starting to reach that point where the scaling, especially from Doxa, especially from Weez, who's now that Rage Blade, is going to be coming back on out. But here, Gage Anchor, he's going Predator.
Chase over the wall goes, Leaves, gets stunned up, gets dragged. Will it be the demise? It's looking very likely as Shang-Chi takes him out.
The Soraka plus Garter combo, you know where that enemy is going to land, so you can just put down the Silence Field. They ain't going nowhere. And with that, with no ADC, they're going to be feeling a lot more confident about Baron. Dinka on the bottom lane still has a teleport available, but this is 8.9 Baron. It does less damage, but it takes so much longer to kill.
And a lot of pressure here, a lot of damage here. Jim Contour definitely has to back out. And look at Digby as he gets caught out just ever so slightly, but Meowing Cat there to give endless supply of health.
Yeah, Baron's not going to fall just yet, but every second that Orin stays around here, Orion, that's just another second that they are actually getting the split push pressure down. 056 finally gets down to his ball lane, but I don't know if he can actually against Dinka. Baron's definitely going to take too long to start, though. Orion need to be very careful because if they throw this Baron, they throw their scaling possibilities.
But they do who are in the process of pretty good pick to come out of Shang-Di. They are looking to try and get a pincer onto Shang-Di, and right there, Digboy getting caught out by the Kaisa. But still, the pressure is on in the bot lane as Dinka forcing down this inhibitor tower, and 056 can do nothing about it.
Only person on that team that can go toe-to-toe with Dinka right now, Doxa, but he cannot be bottom lane if they want to get this Baron up. But Weaves!
Ooh, Weaves is gonna get caught out. He's taking a lot of punishment, and Dinka takes him down. Stun down his Boo Busters, and a double kill picked up by Dinka. Does he see 3? He does! That's a triple kill by Dinka. Doxa wants to make it 4 as he runs away in absolute fear of what's to come. It's coming too fast.
What are you
Down
doing?
is Doxa, and the Crows are absolutely being euthanized.
What is going on? They're jumping in one by one. 4 members all going in one after another, asking for death. And I don't want to say this is game, but this has got to be at least 2 inhibitors, if not Baron as well. Such a throwaway when they looked like they were holding on decently well. They're looking for the end.
Ooh, a little bit ambitious there, but they do back out. This is now the time to really just set up for that Baron, set up that vision, and drag out that last fight to try and close this one out.
Yeah, I mean, with 2 inhibitors down, that just makes the split push game for Baron even that much easier. Dinka can go right back to bottom lane, keep that pressure up with the threat of the base instead of just the inhibitor, and that's just even more powerful. Though, there's still in the back of their mind that slight chance of the Baron throw could mean the game going the other way. So, next few steps do need to be set up correctly, but when they do, they're going to be going pretty well. TP out from Digboy just to get on the mid wave. Not sure if I condone this one, but heck, it's going to get the job done one way or another. Going to get that pushing wave, but now Dinka moving up the top lane. It's still going to take them a little bit of time to set up this Baron, but thankfully with that last inhibitor push, they bond themselves even more time before the scaling coming out from the Crows can even come into effect.
Yeah, and we talked about it. It's the turtle power thing to do, and they're not really doing it. That last one, then one again series of deaths was ridiculously misplayed. I don't know what the goal was there. But right now, Orion's looking so good. They're in the driver's seat. They have their choice of objectives, and they really have to mess this up if they're going to lose this.
Yeah, Baron has been started already down to 3/4 HP, but here comes the entirety of the squad. This is 4 versus 5. TP coming up from 0-5, so this is it. This is the 5-on-5 fight.
This could be the big fight right here, and we start off with Jim Condor going down. Anchor chasing down. He wants to try and get his clutches into 056. And now with their tank down, they have no choice with the way they fight this.
No smite either. They need to come out with a miracle play here if they want to steal. Otherwise, this could be game.
And Baron getting melted down almost a half now. And here comes 056. Very desperate. Flushes forward with the play. Binding goes out. A double petrifying gaze. But look at the hills come out. It's way too much. They can't deal with the power. They can't deal with the pressure.
That's the
and
ace.
Orion looks to end this in a dominating fashion, getting revenge on the players that took them out in the play-ins.
Yeah, they just barely made their way in here by the skin of their teeth to make it through to the season, but they will be finding their way into the first week of play with a 1-0 record. Fortunately, Jim, not too much you can do here.
Not too much at all, but fall to your demise and watch your base go up in flames. 30 minutes into the game, Orion take this series 2-1.
Absolutely natty on the backside. Can't believe they were able to pull it off in the end, but they believed in their early game. They followed through.
Oh, what a series we had. It was just a shift right there. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about what best of threes offer. They offer adaptation. If that was just a best of one like it was in the play-in, we would have saw the same thing that we saw in the play-ins. But then the adaptation came in. We saw beautiful adapting of the draft come out from Orion, where they realized, oh, we can't really do this late game comp, but we can make these mid game spikes work so much better for us.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm still not a fan of the second game draft coming out from the Crows, and I think from that point they just kind of lost the game from there. Once Orion were confident enough to take this aggressive a competition, it was just over. And the one thing that could have brought it back for me was if the Crows used that mid jungle synergy. Like, they forced so many of the flashes out.
Never followed up.
Yeah, they never followed up. Top lane was able to bully out completely uncontested. You need somebody to win the lane, and nobody could.
Yeah, and on that note, we do have to close out this cast for the day. I've been Desirux, followed by my co-caster Return, and we're going to send it over to the analyst desk. Thank you for joining us, and have a great time with the analysts.
Thank you for that throw over, Desirux, and what a series, guys! I mean, wow, that was every bit as exciting of an opening week as we could have hoped for.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that felt like a train wreck in reverse there at the end. Karaoke Machine, it's just like they went from being utterly dominant to like sort of, 50-50ing in that second game to just getting dunked on. And then it's also a straight up reversal because the one player that did the dunking was Dinka, who really set their team up to snowball, who was just, did not have a good game one at all.
Yeah, we can really say the great turnaround that was Orion in this series with game one, anchored going 1-5 on that Sejuani with the pick comp with the Gnar, with Dinka also getting caught out of position multiple times, and also the Azir, to in the second game, and even better in the third game, getting solo kills and just steamrolling and being just that massive top laner, like super top that, I mean, I would say that he is currently with his first round, which is pretty bold, but I mean, it's pretty crazy after seeing that Jace game, what he did.
Yes, most certainly is. And you have to admit, somebody ranked the Dinkster, and the Dinkster showed up. So I have to give him my MVP. For the whole series, that is.
Honestly, the game 3 is what matters. That's what wins the, make or break. He really showed up. That Jace was super clean, so I'm not going to disagree with you there. And the Mundo carry, basically in game 2, and especially after we BM'd him, and then he just proves us wrong and basically carries 2 games. My hat's off to you, man. Very good job. Very clean play. And no disrespect intended if you felt that we directed any your way in the first game, because he did say in Twitch chat, he said, no flame, please. No flame, please. He said that between games, so I'm sorry, man.
But Dinka, yeah, especially from that first game on Gnar. But I mean, props in the first game on Gnar with the 4-man ulti. Too bad you guys were too far behind to really capitalize on that. But turning around to the to Mundo and just being just a monster again in that one, and then this Jace. I mean, that was ridiculously amount of damage, like onto the Vlad and just onto anybody. Like, I'm pretty sure he can nearly 1v4 the enemy team.
Yes, he certainly could apply a lot of damage there. And we will be right back, guys. We were going to take a short break before we come back with an interview of our MVP, Dinka. Hello, everybody. My name is Hypertension. I am joined here by Tame and Mojo Man as usual, but we are joined here by a very special guest, the top laner for Orion and the MVP of the game, the man himself, the Dinka.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's up yourself, man? That was a hell of a series.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So, guys, do you have any questions for Dinka?
Yeah, absolutely. What was going through your mind? Like, did you decide to play the Mundo, or did your team tell you to play the Mundo?
So the Mundo, I was looking into. I like to keep track of counters to certain champions. So right there, we were looking for the counter pick to Scion. It was a battle between Singed and Mundo, and we believed that Singed, Mundo, and Kled. Those were the three picks, and we thought that Mundo was the best pick into Scion, into that team comp as well, since we were looking for a more scaly comp. And Mundo gives that assurance late game with his ultimate. So we just threw the Mundo in there to match the Scion in tanks, and it worked out pretty well later into the game.
Definitely did. Like, I was even cynical during the draft. I was like, oof, Mundo, what's going on here? And admittedly, dude, in the game 3, I was like cynical to your draft too. I was like, I like the Vlad here because, Jace has the big overcharge burst. He has to set it up. And then Vlad has all that lifesteal so he can just get it back. And it's like, you just shut that down. You were so aggressive that you were out of mana, like more than you weren't out of mana, which is, It actually turned out to be definitely the right way to play into that. So that was amazing.
I have one question for you. As someone who has seen you play several times before, and I've casted you several times, I know that you generally do have that favoritism towards carry top laners, and you were forced on the tank in, I believe, both the first 2 games, and I would say Gnar is kind of like that off-tank sort of, that champion that it doesn't necessarily as hard carry as what I'm used to seeing you on. Was that like one of those things, like coming into game 3, you were like, okay, let me pick a carry, we will win this?
So, for that second game when we picked the Mundo, generally, you might not see my tank, but I'm totally comfortable in most, if not all, tanks.
Well, yeah, no,
And
I was just saying it just seems like you always had a favoritism towards them.
yeah, I obviously have favoritism towards it. It's just that if my team needs it, I'll pull it out. That's just how it works. And then in the game 3, we recognize that their top laner usually favoritizes, instead of favoritizing carries, he favoritized a lot of tanks. So instead, we just pinched out his tank pool. You saw the triple tank ban, the Orin, the Cho'Gath, and the Scion. And then we forced him onto a champion did not know how to play or didn't have as much knowledge on. And then we just put me on Jace, since I can bully pretty much any champion on Jace, and we just switched for the best, and it worked out.
Definitely did, man. The one question I have for you guys, and obviously I think the answer is a flat yes, but you got to admit, that Ivern was pretty tilting, wasn't it? That was a very clean Ivern, if you want to give props to the other team. Like, it did earn the bans from you guys, but was that, like, with the comms, were you guys getting a little frustrated or surprised by how clean the Ivern was?
I think that game, the Ivern sure was a problem, but for the most part, that game was filled with a bunch of micro mistakes. We were tracking the Ivern pretty finely, but we might have made a bunch of micro mistakes, like I just said, and we didn't play around him properly. Now that we've played against an Ivern, I feel like we would never lose to Ivern again after a little bit more practice.
Yeah, we did call that on the desk. We said, like, even if the Ivern works, which it did, they're not going to do it again. Like, I don't think that if you didn't ban Ivern, I don't think they actually would have Iverned again. Personal opinion.
But at the same time, taking that risk, taking that banning risk. Mojo, do you have any questions?
I actually wanted to bounce off of what Tam was saying earlier about the Mundo pick. I wasn't too against it. I liked it into the Scion with your Q doing the max health damage, because all Scion wants to do is stack that W up.
Yeah.
But either way, man, just that Jace pick was completely insane to me. What you did, Tam was like, man, the counter pick from the Vlad. I was really overwhelmed at what you did. But either way, man, like, what were you thinking about once you got the game steamrolling on that Jace? Were you just like, all right, we got this. I can push this on anybody.
So right when I got, I believe, my second kill top lane, or was it third, I believe, the Trundle gave us a free kill, and then we ended up getting the first tower on top lane by diving the Vladimir, correct? So, right there, in my head, I know that Jace is a super snowball champion. So, I think, like, try to put in an analogy. We put the key in the door, and we just open the door. So all we have to do is walk in the door and close the door behind us. So like we've already done the hard part. The easy part is just walking through. So the easy part was creating macro decisions, like going for that Baron, as you saw at the very end, and clearing towers inch by inch in order to get that actual push that actual lead into a win.
All right, understood. It's really good. So basically, so with the help of like that third kill and basically the Trundle running into you, or throwing himself at you, I would say, the help with your team with those decisions that you made at Baron, at chipping the health down, and basically spreading your team out to basically get you in fair fights helped you win that game?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
The split that we made, the 1-3-1s that we were doing, the TP Ezreal especially, if you guys noticed that was
yes,
really,
we saw that.
That was really well thought out by our team to force a 1-3-1 into them and split them across the map with me having constant leads.
Yeah, it was extremely smart. However, that is all the time we have for tonight, guys. I have been Hypertension, joined here by Mojo Man, Tame, and Dinka. Thank you all for coming up, and Dinka, congratulations on your first win of the season. Big
Thank you.
turnaround from that play-in stage. So, yeah, look forward to casting and watching you guys more again. I believe, actually, Orion is the most streamed team of the original schedule. So, we will be seeing you again here a couple times within the next few weeks. We might be seeing you here on this interview stage here again, guys. But as I said, everybody, I've been joined by Mojo Man, Tamed, and Dinka. My name is Hypertension, everybody, and thank you for joining us for Week 1 of Champions League. Goodbye, and good night.